Chapter 61-67. However, before he could finish his sentence, the spiritual beast commander slapped him across the face. The guard didn't even have a chance to react before his face was slapped to the back. His neck made a loud cracking sound, and it was unknown whether it was broken or not. "What did you say? Speak louder, I can't hear you," the spirit beast commander said coldly. His hands didn't stop moving. He slapped the guard's face again, whipping the guard's neck to the other side. At the same time, he raised his leg and kicked the guard who hadn't said a word, sending him flying. After receiving 2 hard slaps, the guard was almost dead. The spiritual beast commander didn't retract its straight leg. Instead, it swung it in a circle and kicked the unlucky guard's waist. As the guard was sent flying, the crisp sound of bones breaking rang out. "Hey, didn't you hear what I said? Speak louder. I can't hear you." The spiritual beast commander took a step forward and stood next to the guard who was panting heavily on the ground. It looked down at him with a cold and condescending gaze. "Lord Commander, please spare me." What he meant was that although the prisoners in the prison can't be released at will, Lord Commander is different. As long as you say the word, whether you want to kill or torture these prisoners, release or keep them, it's all up to you. The other guard who was kicked hurriedly knelt and begged for mercy. As long as he could live, he didn't care what the spiritual beast commander wanted to do. "You mean that I'm tyrannical and broke the rules? You want to settle the score with me after this matter is over?" The spiritual beast commander turned to look at the guard, and his tone became colder. No, I definitely didn't mean it that way." The guard trembled and hurriedly shook his head and waved his hands, afraid that he would follow in his comrade's footsteps. The spiritual beast commander snorted coldly but didn't say anything else. The frightened guard suddenly had an idea. He clapped his hands and said to Lin, "Master Lin, there's nothing wrong with your friend. I'll bring him out immediately and hand him over to you. Some of their things are also here, but the spirit jades and the like have already been handed over. I can't return them to your friend." Hearing the guard's words, the spirit beast commander's expression became a lot better. It felt like it had regained some face in front of Linny. It nodded slightly to the guard, indicating that he had done a good job. Linny smiled faintly and said, "They are not my friends. Forget about the spirit jades, but I do need to get those things back." The guard immediately felt a little awkward. If he wasn't your friend, then why the F***ck did you get involved? If he wanted something, he should have just said so. Those extras were only worth 2 million spirit jades. Even if he took them away and left them behind, he wouldn't be held responsible. The spiritual beast commander was also a little confused. Since he wasn't Lin Yi's friend, why did he have to mention him? But it didn't matter. It was just a small favor anyway. Since he had given it, then so be it. The guard stole a glance at the spirit beast commander. When he saw that the spirit beast commander didn't say anything, he immediately turned around and went into the prison to bring Zheng Dongjue and the others out. He also brought the items that were left inside. Zheng Dongjue and Zheng Tianqing saw that apart from Li Zhaoyi, Lin Yi was also here to ransom them. They immediately felt ashamed. They were so embarrassed that their enemies had seen them in such a sorry state. "Have you all been well here?" Lin Yi looked at the 2 people from the Zheng family with a mocking expression. He didn't really want to kick them when they were down, but it was a rare opportunity. It was quite interesting to mock these 2 annoying fellows. Zheng Dongjue and Zheng Tianqing turned their heads at the same time, pretending not to hear or see Lin. However, they still greeted Li Zhaoyi politely and thanked her for coming in time to ransom them. "I didn't ransom you. It was Lin Yi who came to rescue you." Li Zhaoyi's expression was calm as she said to the 2 people. The 2 people from the Zheng family looked at Lin Yi in surprise. They couldn't understand why this enemy would be so kind as to save them. Could it be that he wanted to laugh at them and mock them? "What are you looking at? Do you think that I saved you for nothing? Give me back the spiritual jades, 50 million. Lin Yi stretched out his hand and shook his 5 fingers, indicating that he had used 50 million spiritual jades to ransom them. The guard at the side was speechless. "So you're here to take the ransom into your own pocket? Can't you have a bottom line? At least wait until you leave here to discuss it. Don't say it in front of the person who could have received the ransom." Zheng Dongjue and the others didn't doubt it. After all, they were the ones who told Li Zhaoyi the 50 million spiritual jades. However, how could they be willing to give 50 million spiritual jades to Lin Yi? What's more, they didn't even have a piece of spiritual jades with them now. What could they use to pay the debt? Lin Yi, don't lie to us. With your relationship with us, how could you take out 50 million spiritual jades to ransom us? This must be Master Li Zhaoyi's spiritual jades, right? We will naturally return them to Master Li Zhaoyi later. Don't think about stealing our spiritual jades. Zheng Tianqing didn't want to give the spiritual jades to Lin Yi no matter what, so he immediately began to act like a rogue. I didn't give you a piece of spiritual jades. Li Zhaoyi once again said lightly to clear herself. What she said was also the truth, but she didn't say half of it. Zheng Tianqing was suddenly speechless. Li Zhaoyi came with Lin Yi, so it was simply wishful thinking for him to use Li Zhaoyi to deal with Lin Yi. Stop talking nonsense. 50 million spiritual jades, hurry up, don't try to renege on the debt. Lin Yi knew that they didn't have spiritual jades with them, so he deliberately spoke to them. It was also quite interesting to see their embarrassed faces. What's wrong with reneging on the debt? I will renege on the debt. What can you do to me? Zheng Tianqing made up his mind and simply carried out the great cause of being a rogue to the end. Zheng Dongjue and the rest of the people of Alchemy Hall stood aside and didn't speak, letting Zheng Tianqing and Lin Yi talk nonsense. You really renege on the debt? No problem, then you can continue to stay inside. Lin Yi smiled slightly and turned to the guard, saying, I'm sorry, please send them back. Maybe someone will come to redeem them in the future, but definitely not today. The guard was overjoyed. If he could bring these people back, his responsibility would be reduced by half. If he could really receive the ransom, it was not a big deal to lose some small things. Master Lin, don't worry, it's not troublesome at all. I will bring them back now. The guard bowed and said with a smile. Then he pulled the chain in his hand and said coldly, Let's go, what are you looking at? Go back to prison and reflect on yourself. Chapter 61-68. The question was, why could Lin Yi order the spiritual beasts to do things? Was he related to the spiritual beasts? Moreover, it was a very powerful relationship. Otherwise, ordinary spiritual beasts wouldn't have the right to order other spiritual beasts around. Lin Yi, let's talk this out. We will definitely return the spiritual jades we owe you. However, we don't have any more spiritual jades to give you now. When we return to Middle Island, we will definitely return the 50 million spiritual jades. Zheng Dongjue quickly admitted defeat. He didn't want to be locked up in prison again. With his age, he wouldn't be able to last long after his strength was sealed. It was just 50 million spiritual jades, here. Vice Hall Master Zheng is really good with words. Since you said you will return it, then write an IOU first. Lin Yi's lips curled up as he looked at Zheng Dongjue with a playful smile. Zheng Dongjue was a man of his word. At this time, he didn't hesitate at all and nodded his head in agreement. As for the leftovers from these people, Lin Yi wasn't very interested. He just took the directional jade plate and left the rest for them to deal with. Master Lin, the matter here has come to an end. I wonder if you have time. Let me treat you to a meal, shall we? The spiritual beast commander smiled and cupped his fists towards Lin. This time he had done Lin Yi a favor. It would be better if they could deepen their relationship. Lin Yi also cupped his fists and said, Thank you for your help this time, Lord Commander. I was supposed to treat you to a meal, but I have something important to do now. I must leave Weiwan City immediately. I can only thank you next time. The spiritual beast commander was slightly stunned. However, he didn't think that Lin Yi wasn't giving him face. Anyway, he had already done the favor. It didn't matter whether he ate the meal or not. Master Lin, is there anything urgent? Is there anything you need help with? In Weiwan Waters, I still have some ability. The spiritual beast commander said confidently. If he could really help, it would be another favor. His relationship with Lin Yi couldn't be bad. I'd already left Velvet City, but I rushed back because I received their distress call. I'm very grateful for your concern, Commander, but I don't think you'll be able to help me with my matters. Lin Yi smiled faintly as he gave a brief explanation before turning down the Spirit Beast Commander's good intentions. In that case, I won't hold Master Lin any longer. If you need me in the future, feel free to let me know. When you arrive at Weiwan City, be sure to come and have a drink with me. The Spiritual Beast Commander laughed and said. Lin Yi naturally had to entertain him. After leaving the prison, Lin Yi took Li Zhaoyi, Langze, and the others directly to the direction of the dock. Since the jade plate was in his hands, he naturally wouldn't care about Zheng Dongjue and the others. Although there were other people in the Dan Hall, they were all guest guards. They didn't have any real power in the Dan Hall. Basically, they were Zheng Dongjue's people. Therefore, Lin didn't need to care about their face. When searching for ruins, Lin Yi definitely wouldn't bring the two people from the Zheng family. Unfortunately, Zheng Dongjue's jade plate was taken away by Lin Yi. How could he get rid of them so easily? That jade plate belongs to our Dan Hall. You have to return it to me. Seeing that Lin Yi and the others were about to reach the dock, Zheng Dongjue couldn't help but quickly step forward to stop Lin Yi and stretch out his hand to ask for the jade plate. Boss, this old man is really shameless. It's obviously ours, but he actually said it's his. Can I beat him up? Langze's eyes lit up. He quickly came forward to scold Zheng Dongjue, hoping to have a good fight. Zheng Dongjue's face changed. He had no choice but to ask for the jade plate. He was very clear about the combat power of Lin Yi's side. It was really not something that the 8 of them could fight against. If they fought, Langze could probably sweep the whole place by himself. Therefore, it was better to avoid fighting. No, Lin Yi, listen to me. Isn't the ransom 50 million? This 50 million also includes our things. Since I gave you 50 million spirit jade on the IOU, then the jade plate naturally belongs to us, right? We're all reputable people in Middle Island, so we still have to talk about this, right? Zheng Dongjue quickly waved his hand to stop Langze. At the same time, he laid out the facts and said everything. Lin Yi was slightly startled. Zheng Dongjue's words made sense. Since he had written an IOU, then the things that he had redeemed should indeed belong to them. The jade plate belongs to the Dan Hall, and it was brought back by Lin. I said that it's fine for him to hold it. Do you have any other questions? Li Zhaoyi suddenly said coldly, causing Zheng Dongjue to choke. As the chief alchemist of the Dan Hall, he was indeed qualified to hold the jade plate. Li Zhaoyi and Lin Yi were together, so it was the same no matter who held it. Furthermore, Zheng Dongjue and the others couldn't keep the jade plate, and now they wanted to take it back. How could there be such a good thing? Master Li Zhao, of course it's not a problem for you to want the jade plate. Didn't you already take one before? Okay, we don't want the jade plate, but exploring the ruins is an important operation of the Dan Hall. Everyone should be together, right? Zheng Dongjue first pointed out that Li Zhaoyi already had a jade plate, and then he asked to follow Lin Yi and the others to the ruins. Li Zhaoyi was very unwilling, but they took out the righteous name of the Dan Hall, so it was not convenient for her to refuse. She could only look at Lin Yi. Lin Yi had no choice. If it wasn't for Li Zhaoyi, he wouldn't have abandoned the 2 idiots of the Zheng family. Now he had to consider Li Zhaoyi's position. Follow me, but if you encounter any danger, you'll be responsible for it. I won't save you. Lin Yi glanced at Zheng Dongjue and Zheng Tianqing with a playful smile. The ruins were not simple. Just the golden-haired ape puppet guarding the door was already at the early stage of earth opening. After entering the stone door, who knew how many dangers they would encounter? To put it bluntly, if it wasn't for Lin Yi this time, these people from the Dan Hall wouldn't even be able to enter the door. Of course, Master Lin doesn't need to worry about safety. Zheng Dongjue clenched his teeth and smiled. In fact, he didn't think that they would really encounter much danger. It was just the ruins of an alchemist. How dangerous could it be? By the way, you said in the message that you have something to tell me. What is it? Li Zhaoyi suddenly thought of this and immediately looked at Zheng Dongjue. Chapter 61-69. He suddenly mentioned it this time mainly because he was afraid that Li Zhaoyi wouldn't come to redeem them, so he mentioned it vaguely. Now that they were going to act together, there was no need to continue hiding it. Information about the ruins? Are you referring to the specific location or something else? Li Zhaoyi asked faintly, not showing any displeasure. Anyway, they had found the place and the way to enter was completely clear, so Li Xiaoyi certainly wouldn't be angry over such a small matter. Jing Dongjue nodded and said, more or less. The location of the ruin is in Zhenduanxi's Lufeng forest. As long as we get there, the locale jade plate will show us the location. He didn't think it was that important. However, he didn't know that when he mentioned the Lufeng forest of the Zhenduanxi, Lin Yi and Li Xiaoyi were stunned because they were very sure that the sea mist maze was not in the Zhenduanxi, and the platform and the stone door were all in the sea, which had nothing to do with the Lufeng forest. What was going on? The previous experience was definitely not fake, and the place was also guided by the location jade plate. So, was Jing Dongjue lying? Are you sure it is in the Lufeng forest of the Zhenduanxi? Where is it recorded? Let me see. Li Xiaoyi knew that Lin Yi was confused, so he directly reached out and asked Jing Dongjue for the item. Master Li Xiaoyi, I didn't bring the item recorded. Because it is an important book of the Pill Hall, I left it in the Middle Island. However, I have it in my head, so there won't be any mistakes. Jing Dongjue definitely wouldn't let Li Xiaoyi see the record, and he didn't bring it. He wasn't lying about that. Are we going to the Lufeng forest of the Zhenduanxi now? Lin Yi asked calmly. He was sure that the stone door was not fake, but what Jing Dongjue said seemed to be true. Perhaps there were some mysteries that he hadn't figured out. No, the record says that before going to the Lufeng forest, we must first pass through a special sea. If we don't go there, even if we reach the Lufeng forest, we won't be able to enter the ruins. Jing Dongjue's lips curled with a hint of pride. He thought that he had already taken the initiative. Without his guidance, it was impossible for Lin Yi and the others to find the ruins. The South Continent Sea was so vast that it was no different from looking for a needle in a haystack to find a ruin with a jade plate. Moreover, even if one was lucky enough to find a ruin in the Lufeng forest, one would not be able to enter the ruin without passing through a special sea. It was precisely because he knew this that Jing Dongjue didn't mind letting Li Xiaoyi and the others come to the South Continent first. However, he didn't know that Lin Yi and Li Xiaoyi had accidentally found the special sea area he mentioned. Lin Yi and Li Xiaoyi looked at each other. They had some understanding in their hearts. Perhaps there was a teleportation formation behind the huge stone door. Only through this stone door could they enter the ruins in Lufeng Forest. In that case, Jing Dongjue's words were very credible. However, this old man probably didn't know that in order to enter the stone door, 2 directional jade plates were indispensable. Otherwise, he wouldn't have allowed Li Xiaoyi to take one away. Is there any other information? There should be records of any dangers or treasures in the ruins, right? Li Xiaoyi didn't mention the stone door and continued to inquire about the ruins. Unfortunately, Jing Dongjue, a sly guy, wouldn't easily reveal the truth. He just shook his head and said, "There's no mention of this. There are some records that I don't understand. Perhaps I can only figure it out when I get there and combine the actual situation, so I won't mention it for now." Then do you know where the special sea area is? Lin Yi pretended not to know because he wanted to see if Jing Dongjue was hiding anything in this aspect. I know the general direction. You just have to follow me when the time comes. Jing Dongjue finally found a reason to be arrogant. So what if the directional jade plate is in your hands? You still have to rely on me to guide you. Lin Yi was secretly amused. He didn't expose Jing Dongjue. It didn't matter to let him be proud for a while. After arriving at the dock, Lin Yi and Li Xiaoyi naturally rode the flying spiritual beasts of the Dan Hall. Fei Yi still carried Lenguza and the other 2. Jing Dongjue and the others didn't have flying spiritual beasts, so they could only rent a large flying spiritual beast. Although it was slow, it could at least carry all 8 of them on its back. It couldn't be helped. They were poor now. Without spiritual jades, how could they think of a good flying spiritual beast? This was all given to them by Lin. Thinking about that expression, Jing Dongjue and Jing Tianqing were so ashamed that they wanted to die. After taking off, Lin Yi let Jing Dongjue fly in front. They followed behind and chatted leisurely. Anyway, the place was there, and the key to open the stone door was in their hands. There was no need to be anxious. After spending more than twice the time before, the group finally arrived at the periphery of the sea fog maze. Zheng Dongjue waited for Lin Yi's flying spiritual beast to fly closer before saying with a smile, "The general location is here. Next, we need the directional jade plate to guide the way. I don't know why we have to pass through here." Lin Yi didn't want to continue talking nonsense. He pointed at the sea fog in front and said, "We don't need the directional jade plate to guide us. We're going this way. You have to follow me closely. Don't get lost inside." Jing Dongjue and the others were stunned. They didn't understand why Lin Yi suddenly seemed to be more certain than them. Lenguz, who was on the back of Fei Yi, chuckled. He pointed at Jing Dongjue and Jing Tianqing and said, "Did you hear what boss said? This is a very powerful maze. If you don't follow closely and get lost in it, don't blame us." Lin Yi suddenly laughed. He didn't think so. Since he brought people from the Dan Hall here, there was no need to get rid of them after arriving here. However, it was quite interesting to see Jing Dongjue and Jing Tianqing's ugly expressions. So, if Languza wanted to continue to scare them, it was up to him. "Master Li Zhao, you are riding on the flying spiritual beasts of the Dan Hall. I think it is necessary to share 1 or 2 people from the Dan Hall with you. In this way, we can be more relaxed here, and our speed can also be increased a lot. We won't delay the journey." Jing Tianqing looked at Li Zhao and said seriously. He was really worried that Lin Yi would get rid of them in the maze. If he could share a flying spiritual beast with Lin Yi and Li Zhao, he would be completely relieved. The flying spiritual beasts of the Dan Hall were more than enough to accommodate 4 people. However, when Lin Yi and Li Zhao were together, Languza and the others were very sensible and wouldn't come with them. Because of their fear of Lin Yi, Jing Dongjue and the others didn't dare to come with them. Chapter 6170. You mean you want to come to our side? Lin Yi looked at Jing Tianqing with a faint smile, a strange look in his eyes. Jing Tianqing felt a chill all over his body, and suddenly hesitated. He and Lin Yi were enemies. If he went over like this, would he be quietly killed in the sea mist maze array? Jing Dongjue also had this concern. Without waiting for Jing Tianqing to speak, he hurriedly said, "No, Tianqing didn't mean that. He wanted you to fly a little slower and take care of the speed of our flying spirit beasts." "So it's like this? Then it's okay. Pay attention and follow us." Lin Yi smiled faintly, turned his head and ignored them. He controlled the flying spirit beast to fly towards the stone steps. This time, he didn't need the help of this ghost. Lin Yi could easily move forward along the maze channel. The temporary divine sense mark that he left before had not dissipated, so he didn't even need the directional jade plate. He could directly find the direction. When they were almost there, Lin Yi took out a directional jade plate. If he didn't hold this thing in his hand, the stone steps wouldn't appear. "Lin Yi, you've already been to this place?" Jing Dongjue was not a fool. Looking at Lin Yi's familiar look, if he still couldn't guess the truth, then he would really have lived for so many years in vain. "What nonsense are you talking about? Follow my boss. If you continue to talk nonsense, I'll beat you up." Languza glared at him. He couldn't wait to fight at any time. It couldn't be better if Zheng Dongjue dared to talk back. Zheng Dongjue felt aggrieved, but he still gritted his teeth and endured it. His strength was inferior to others. If he didn't bear it, he would be courting death. If he didn't have more information about the ruins, he even wanted to give up this operation, because the benefits wouldn't fall on him. Everyone jumped off the flying spirit beast and transformed into human form. The other 2 flying spirit beasts continued to hover at low altitude. Lin Yi and Li Zhao took the lead. There were still only about 10 steps on the stone steps, and there was nothing beyond that. Zheng Dongjue and Jing Tianqing, who were lagging behind, were very puzzled. They didn't know how Lin Yi and the others had found this place. It was such a secret place. Even if they had the support of intelligence, it would still be difficult for them to find this place in a short time. Could it be that Lin Yi and Li Zhao had more detailed information than them? When Jing Dongjue thought of this possibility, he felt even more uneasy. Right now, the only thing he could rely on was the information in his hands. If he couldn't compare to Lin Yi and the rest in this aspect, then this trip to the ruins was destined to be fruitless. After a while, everyone arrived on the platform. Lin Yi placed the positional jade plate in his hand into the groove that was revealed in the center, and the huge stone door appeared once again. The people from Dan Hall who had never seen it before were all dumbstruck. Standing under such a huge stone door, they could feel the ancient chi coming from it, causing them to feel extremely small. "Brat, you came back so quickly. Did you find the second key?" The golden-haired monkey in front of the door saw Lin Yi and asked curiously. How long had it been since he left, and he had already found the second key? Was this a joke? "Yeah, do you have anything to say?" Lin Yi smiled as he took out another jade plate and waved it around. "It's true. Master Monkey has underestimated you. Since you found the second key, then you can go in. But there is one thing you need to know. A qualification token can only allow 5 people to enter at the same time. If you want to bring so many people in, your qualification token is not enough." The golden-haired monkey grinned and extended his huge palm, pointing to the rest of the people in a circle. Lin Yi was stunned. If only 5 people could enter, he didn't even have enough space for himself. As for those people from Dan Hall, it didn't matter. If it wasn't for Li Zhaoyi, he wouldn't even bring them here. Whether they could enter or not was none of his business. "If I want to get a qualification token, do I have to challenge you?" Lin Yi reacted quickly and immediately understood the meaning behind it. "Yes, as long as you can defeat Master Monkey, you can get a qualification token every time." The golden-haired monkey nodded and reached out to grab the void. A black stone stick appeared in his palm and he slammed it heavily on the ground. Lin Yi's mouth twitched. Seeing the black stone stick, he felt a headache. Although he won against the golden-haired monkey last time, it was really just a fluke. The golden-haired monkey restrained Lin Yi too much. Lin Yi's most powerful moves, such as the Soul Hook Hand, Spiritual Knowledge Whirlpool, Thunder Burial, etc., were completely immune to the golden-haired monkey. Only a Super Pill Firebomb could pose a threat. But after suffering a loss once, the golden-haired monkey definitely wouldn't give Lin Yi the chance to condense a Super Pill Firebomb again. Without enough time to condense it, even if he could use it, the power would not be enough to cause too much damage to the golden-haired monkey. It's a pity that you have already defeated Master Monkey once, so you are not qualified to challenge Master Monkey again. Otherwise, I could teach you a lesson and let you know that Master Monkey was not serious before. The golden-haired monkey lifted the stone stick and pointed it at Lin Yi and said with a look of pity. This time, Lin Yi didn't have to worry anymore. Since he had lost the qualification to challenge again, what else was there to think about? "Boss, I'm going to teach this monkey a lesson. He's too arrogant." Languza had an eager expression on his face. He didn't care whether the opponent was strong or not, as long as he could fight. Even if this guy was facing an opponent who hadn't reached the foundational level, he could still fight with relish, let alone someone stronger than him. There is no need to lower yourself to this monkey's level. It is just a puppet. My qualification token is enough. We don't need too many people to enter the ruins. Lin Yi waved his hand and did not agree to Languza's request. Although fighting with the golden-haired monkey would help Languza's strength, the golden-haired monkey was too strong, and its body was almost indestructible. Although Languza was strong, he was definitely not its opponent. It didn't matter if he was injured, but if there was an accident and Languza died, Lin Yi wouldn't be able to accept that. "Okay, boss, you have the final say." Languza looked at the golden-haired monkey with regret, shook his head and retreated to the side. He really wanted to fight with the golden-haired monkey, but since Lin didn't allow it, Languza wouldn't force it. He had to listen to his boss. The golden-haired monkey looked at Languza with disdain. Although Lin Yi's aura was not as strong as Languza's, in the golden-haired monkey's eyes, the only person who could threaten it was Lin. Chapter 6171. Master Li Zhao, this relic is the information of our Dan Hall after all, and it's also the relic of an alchemist. Do you think? Zheng Dongjue would never challenge the golden-haired monkey, so the only way now was to squeeze into the 5 places that Lin Yi gave them. Directly telling Lin Yi would be asking for trouble. Only by taking a roundabout way and asking Li Zhaoyi to speak, would they have a chance to get the places they wanted. Li Zhaoyi frowned slightly. She didn't want to bring Zheng Dongjue and the others along. If there were only 2 places on the qualification token, then she could enter the relic with Lin Yi alone without considering the interests of the Dan Hall. Now that Zheng Dongjue had brought it up directly, Li Zhao couldn't refuse. She could only look at Lin Yi. If Lin Yi refused, then she wouldn't have anything to do with it. After all, the qualification token was obtained by Lin Yi after risking his life. It wouldn't be a problem for him to bring whoever he wanted. What? You want a place to enter the relic? But I risked my life to get this place. Isn't it a little unreasonable for you to get it just like that? Lin Yi smiled faintly. He held the gold medal in his hand and flipped it back and forth with 4 fingers, waiting to see what Zheng Dongjue had to say. Lin Yi, tell me your conditions. Don't forget that I still have information about the relic. Zheng Dongjue gritted his teeth secretly. He was prepared to be ripped off by Lin Yi because he had no confidence in the value of the information in his hands. It doesn't matter whether you tell me the information or not. Anyway, I don't expect you to tell me the truth. Lin Yi shrugged and looked indifferent. He then turned to Hao Zili and the others and said, "There are only 5 places, so the 3 of you might as well stay outside. Languza will follow me into the relic. Is that okay?" "No problem, boss, don't worry." Hao Zili, Min Huichen and the others hurriedly cupped their fists and agreed. They were clear that the 3 of them were left outside to keep an eye on the people in the Dan Hall in case they played any tricks. Although it was a pity that he could not enter the ruins, it was also good to be able to work for Lin Yi. At the very least, he could gain Lin Yi's favor. Who knows, he might be able to cure the poison in the future. If 3 people stayed, then Lin Yi would have 2 more spots. Zheng Dongjue and Zheng Tianqing looked at Lin eagerly, wondering what kind of conditions he would offer. There are 2 more slots left. 1 slot for 75 million spiritual jades, so 2 slots will be 150 million spiritual jades. Do you want it? Lin Yi retracted his gaze and smiled at Zheng Dongjue. Since there was such a good opportunity, he would naturally take advantage of it. Zheng Dongjue gritted his teeth and spat out the word. His heart was bleeding non-stop. In addition to the previous 50 million, they now owed Lin Yi 200 million spirit jades. They had just experienced a huge loss in the extreme North Island, and the spirit jades in their hands were already tight. Now it was even worse. But it was impossible not to enter the relic, and they could only be slaughtered. Great. That's settled then. Write me an IOU. Lin Yi smiled slightly. It was still very pleasant to be able to extort a sum of spiritual jades from Zheng Dongjue and the others. Actually, even without the spiritual jades, he would still give 2 slots to the Dan Hall. After all, he still had to give face to Li Zhaoyi. Zheng Dongjue swallowed his anger, wrote the IOU, and called Zheng Tianqing over. The 2 slots would be theirs, and the rest of the guest chamberlains and guards would stay. Originally, they felt that it would be more dangerous without guards, but after thinking about it, these 6 guest chamberlains and guards together were not a match for Lin Yi or Languza. There was not much difference whether they brought them or not. "Kid, you can do this? Even Master Monkey has to say that I admire you." The golden-haired monkey saw that he had no chance to make a move, so he simply put away the stone rod and chatted with Lin Yi with a smile. "If you admire me, why don't you follow me? In the future, I guarantee that you will have a good life." Lin Yi was in a good mood and also chatted with the golden-haired monkey. To be honest, the golden-haired monkey puppet's strength was quite good, especially its incomparably tough body. If he could obtain it, it would definitely be a very good helper. Unfortunately, the puppet did not have a control token, so it was impossible for it to recognize a master. There's a chance. After you enter the ruins, work hard. The golden-haired monkey giggled, and his attitude towards Lin Yi was much better. Lin Yi's heart was slightly moved. Listening to this, there might really be something like a token to control the golden-haired monkey in the ruins. If he could find it, he would have a strong helper. Do you have any suggestions? Why don't you tell me? Lin Yi was originally prepared to open the stone door, but he was not in a hurry to go over. He was thinking about whether he could get more information. It was impossible to count on Zheng Dongjue and the others to share information. Those 2 were experts in backstabbing. If they did not provide some false information to frame Lin Yi, he would be laughing secretly. "I don't have any suggestions, and even if I did, I can't tell you. You should just honestly explore by yourself." The golden-haired monkey laughed and waved his hand to the side, signaling for Lin Yi to quickly open the door. Lin Yi smiled faintly and did not mind. After he inserted the qualification token into the groove, he placed the second positional jade plate into the circular groove. The jade plate slowly emitted a soft light and slowly began to spin. The huge stone door began to shake, and the mysterious patterns on the stone door began to light up. The door is open. Lin Yi retreated to the side and protected Li Xiaoyi behind him. His eyes were fixed on the slowly opening huge stone door. However, Li Xiaoyi's eyes did not pay attention to the stone door at all. From beginning to end, her eyes fell on Lin Yi, and her pretty face unconsciously became a little flushed. Fortunately, everyone else's attention was also on the huge stone door, and no one noticed Li Xiaoyi's strange behavior. Languza was even more excited. The stone door had only opened a small gap, and he could not wait to rush in to take a look. "Boss, the spiritual qi inside is so dense, at least twice as dense as here." Languza was the closest to the stone door, so he was the most sensitive to the qi leaking out from the stone door. "It is indeed very dense. It seems that this alchemist's ruins are really a good place. There should be a lot of good things inside." Lin Yi nodded, feeling very satisfied. When exploring, one must find a valuable place, otherwise it would just be a waste of time. As they spoke, the speed at which the stone door opened increased, and it was almost completely open. Lin Yi took the lead and walked towards the stone door, but Languza did not wait for Lin Yi to enter and rushed in first. Lin Yi smiled and shook his head. He knew that this guy was worried about some kind of danger, so he rushed in first. In fact, with Lin Yi's strength, his ability to protect himself was not much weaker than Languza's. Chapter 6172. Just as Lin Yi was about to follow them in, the jade plate in the center of the platform and the jade plate at the beginning of the stone door automatically left the grooves and flew into Lin Yi's hands. "These two keys will be useful later. You can keep them. I wish you all the best." The golden-haired ape waved at Lin Yi and said with a grin. Lin Yi had just put away the jade plate, and before he had time to say anything, he felt the stone door begin to close slowly. There was a pulling force inside that pulled him, Li Xiaoyi, and the two people from the Zheng family into the door. This force was very strong, but it was not violent, so Lin Yi did not resist and was pulled into the stone door with the three of them. Lin Yi only felt his vision blur, and he subconsciously released his divine sense. He found that he and the other four were standing in an empty stone hall. "Boss, there's nothing here. It's completely empty. Could it be that someone has already gotten here before us?" Languza, who came in first, looked around and really did not find anything valuable. To be precise, he did not find anything. If this was a house, it could definitely be described as bare walls. "There should be a formation here, right?" Lin Yi replied casually, then he took out a jade plate and looked at it. Since these two jade plates were still useful, maybe they were used for this. Just like the previous platform, if the jade plate was not inlaid in the center, the huge stone door would not appear. There were no white or green dots on the jade plate, and there was no light to guide them. After Lin Yi's divine sense permeated it, there was no reaction, as if it was not very useful. "Deputy Hall Master Zheng, in the information you have, do you have any records about this place?" Lin Yi looked up at Zheng Dongjue. It was good to take the two of them with him, so he could make use of the waste. Maybe Zheng Dongjue would hide something when there were benefits to take, but now that there was nothing, all they had to do was continue forward. The guy wouldn't do anything behind the scenes, and so Lin Yi was reassured to ask him. Zheng Dongjue nodded. After some careful consideration, he pointed to a place and said, "There seems to be a similar situation in the records. If I'm not wrong, there should be some kind of mechanism in that direction. You can go and take a look." Lin Yi followed Zheng Dongjue's finger to the place, stomped twice on the ground, and turned to ask. "That's right, that's the place. Is there anything special about it?" Zheng Dongjue saw that there was no danger, so he slowly followed and helped Lin Yi search. Unfortunately, the two of them did not discover anything. This location was completely the same as the other locations. There was nothing special about it. Lin Yi shook his head and held the two directional jade plates in his hands. He gestured at the position, but there was still no reaction. Could it be that this place doesn't need the directional jade plates, but the qualification token? Lin Yi secretly guessed that when opening the stone door, the qualification token would first reveal the groove to use the jade plates. Therefore, it was very likely that this was the same trick. However, before entering, Lin Yi did not collect the qualification token. The two jade plates jumped out on their own, so the qualification token should still be on the stone door. However, the entrance had long been closed. Even if Lin Yi wanted to go out and get the qualification token, he could not do so. Jing Dongjue was also scratching his head. If his information did not match the actual situation in the ruins, then it would be very troublesome. What if, according to the information, it was a safe place to hide treasures, but in the end, it became the most dangerous place? Wouldn't that be a very unjust death? Everyone fell into deep thought. Only Languza was still wandering around, touching everything. At this moment, a cold knife light suddenly appeared next to Lin Yi and accurately chopped at his neck. Lin Yi was shocked and subconsciously activated the lightning escape technique. In a flash of lightning, he had already left the place and narrowly avoided the knife light. Languza, protect Li Zaoi. Lin Yi roared and fully spread out his divine sense to find the source of the knife light. It was not that he did not want to protect Li Zaoi personally, but the main target of the attack was him. If he ran to Li Zaoi's side, it was likely that he would not be protecting her, but causing her to be in trouble. Boss, rest assured I will definitely protect sister-in-law's safety. Languza shouted as he quickly appeared next to Li Zaoi. His powerful aura was fully revealed. From the surface, it seemed that this guy was much stronger than Lin Yi. Jing Dongjue, on the other hand, was scared out of his wits. The target of the blade was Lin Yi, but he was standing so close to it that he could feel how terrifying it was. If the blade had been aimed at him, he wouldn't even have been able to react before being sliced in half. After rolling and crawling away from this position, Jing Dongjue and Jing Tianqing simultaneously chose to run to Li Zaoi's side. With Languza protecting Li Zaoi, they could at least benefit from it. Lin Yi, be careful. Li Zaoi's pretty face was slightly red. She did not care about Languza's nonsense and looked at Lin Yi with great concern. The blade light missed, drawing a beautiful arc in the air before disappearing abruptly. Li Zaoi hadn't even finished his sentence when he reappeared behind Lin Yi, silently striking at his head. Lin Yi once again activated the lightning escape technique and avoided the knife light by a hair's breadth. He was secretly shocked. His divine sense could not detect the appearance of the knife light at all. If it were not for the warning in the space of the jade pendant and his instinct to protect himself, he might not have been able to avoid it this time. Damn it, what is this thing? If this thing is not attacking me, but Zaoi and Languza, it would probably be difficult for them to resist. Lin Yi did not dare to stay in the same place for too long. While flashing and flashing, he was constantly thinking about how to deal with it. Although the knife light was still staring at him, who could guarantee that it would not suddenly go crazy and stab Li Zaoi? Lin Yi, be careful. Li Zaoi suddenly screamed. Even Languza was not faster than her. Because as the knife light slashed down, another knife light appeared out of thin air and fiercely slashed at the point where Lin Yi's thunder arc landed. Two knife lights. Lin Yi was also frightened. Relying on the body riding thunder, he changed the direction of the thunder arc at the critical moment and barely avoided the second sinister knife light. But the other knife light had disappeared again and suddenly appeared again, chasing Lin Yi's momentum. Chapter 6173. Don't come over, protect Li Zaoi. Lin Yi took the time to yell, and the ghostly speed wings appeared on his back. As a connection between the two lightning escape techniques, the agility of his movements suddenly doubled. Languza punched out, and the saber light disappeared. His full strength hit the air, which made him very uncomfortable. After hearing Lin Yi's yell, although he was unwilling, he could only retreat obediently, so as not to affect Lin Yi's movements. Unfortunately, it was too late for him to retreat. The saber light that disappeared began to attack Languza, constantly flashing around his body, and each attack was enough to instantly kill an expert in the early stage of the mountain opening realm. Languza roared again, and a blue water current appeared around his body at an extremely fast speed. It had no effect on his own punches, but when the saber light slashed down, it would be greatly deflected by the rotating force of the water current. Because of this guy could avoid the attack. Lin Yi also breathed a sigh of relief. Languza being able to resist a saber light was also within his expectations, and now he only hoped that Li Xiaoyi would be fine. Very soon, Lin Yi didn't have time to worry about the others, because he didn't relax much after Languza had parted a blade of light. The third blade of light also appeared around him after a breath's time. If it were not for the lightning escape technique combined with the ghostly speed wings, it would really be difficult for Lin Yi to resist these two well-coordinated saber lights. His body was not particularly strong, and if he was hit, even if he did not die, he would be seriously injured. Jing Dongjue and Jing Tianqing did not even dare to breathe loudly. They carefully hid behind Li Xiaoyi and looked around in horror, for fear that a deadly saber light would suddenly appear. With their small bodies, under that level of saber light, they were not much different from tofu, and probably did not even have the qualifications to stop the saber light for a moment. Li Xiaoyi was extremely anxious, but there was really no way to help Lin. For the first time, she hated herself for not cultivating hard and devoting herself to alchemy. If her strength was similar to Lin Yi's, she could at least stand by his side and fight side by side. With Zhang Liju's strength, if Li Xiaoyi really wanted to train, her strength wouldn't be too bad. Even if she couldn't compare to Lin Yi, it wouldn't be a problem for her to become a mystic ascension full perfection. Lin Yi flew around randomly in the air. Fortunately, the stone hall was tall and large, which gave him enough space. At this time, there were already 3 saber lights circling around him. Every time they missed, they would immediately disappear and reappear at another tricky angle. Under the continuous attack of the 3 sinister and strange saber lights, even Lin Yi felt a little flustered. However, he also felt a little strange. What was going on? If the goal was to kill, the 4 saber lights from the beginning would be a sneak attack. When Lin Yi was unprepared, the Jade Space's warning wouldn't give him enough time to react. Once Lin Yi was killed, Languza wouldn't be able to defend against the 4 saber lights. As for Li Xiaoyi, Jing Dongjue, and the others, there was nothing much to say. Could it be that these saber lights were some kind of test? Just like the golden-haired monkey? Lin Yi had some understanding in his heart. The dragon-shaped 5 elements killing intent and lightning were pushed to the extreme by him, and he actively attacked the 3 saber lights. Although he would miss every time, he gradually found some pattern. "Kid, you're finally starting to understand a little." The ghost suddenly spoke, and Lin Yi couldn't help but be stunned. "Senior Ghost, you've seen through the formation here long ago, right?" Lin Yi was also constantly attacked, dodged, and counterattacked. Only then did he see some clues. However, how sharp was the ghost's eyes? Even if it had never seen a formation before, it could quickly study some of the knack. It wasn't that early, just before the second light appeared. The ghost smiled lazily, as if it was trying to piss Lin Yi off. Before the second saber light appeared, didn't it mean after the first one appeared? Lin Yi couldn't help but roll his eyes. This ghost actually watched him deal with it nervously, and also worried about the safety of others. It didn't even remind him. "Can't we have fun together? Don't blame me for not reminding you. This level of attack is not enough to kill you. It's a rare opportunity to sharpen your skills, and I can't casually destroy it." The ghost laughed strangely. Lin Yi was really speechless after hearing it. "In that case, I really should thank you." Lin Yi replied in his heart, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. Suddenly, he used the Wood Forest Thousand Changes. Hundreds of Lin Yi appeared in the rock hall at the same time. The 4 saber lights all paused for a moment and then flashed wildly, constantly attacking Lin Yi's doppelgangers. Even Languza was ignored. Lin Yi withdrew his divine sense to a very small area and used his doppelgangers to guide the saber lights into this area, carefully searching for traces. The 4 saber lights were attracted, and each time they disappeared and reappeared, the fluctuations became more and more obvious. In addition to the reason that Lin Yi's divine sense was concentrated in this area, the dense saber lights were easier to find traces. Just as Lin Yi was about to grasp the trajectory of the saber lights, the 5th saber light quietly appeared behind his real body, like a cold and ruthless poisonous snake, instantly revealing its poisonous fangs. I've been waiting for you. Seeing the saber light approaching, Lin Yi's mouth showed a trace of a smile, and the super pill firebomb in his palm directly met the fifth saber light. He had already expected that there would be a fifth saber light, because there were 5 places to enter this place. Normally, it would correspond to 5 saber lights, and from his understanding of the traces of the formation, it could also prove this point. Now, it was in line with his guess. The last saber light took advantage of Lin Yi's attention to the other 4 saber lights to launch a final sneak attack. This time, the super pill firebomb did not condense too much power, so Lin Yi could completely control the power, direction, and range of the explosion. The 5th saber light wanted to disappear again, but the small group of super pill firebomb completely wrapped it in it, and the destructive power that erupted completely isolated the space around the saber light, making its attempt to escape completely fail. The other 4 saber lights suddenly flashed wildly, trying to launch a siege attack on Lin Yi's real body. Dozens of Wood Forest Thousand Changes doppelgangers immediately desperately blocked the saber light, and for a moment, the scene was extremely tragic. Chapter 6174. The entire hall let out a dull rumbling sound, and the entire space seemed to be trembling slightly. The ghostly thing couldn't help but praise, "Kid, although this move of yours is simple and crude, it's still a good way to break through with brute force. It's a pity that such an exquisite formation was destroyed by you. If you think it's a pity, wouldn't it be better if you taught me how to break the array earlier?" Lin Yi replied with a smile. He also knew that this ghostly thing was taking the opportunity to sharpen himself. If he kept being guided by this ghostly thing, how could he possibly make progress? "You want this old man to do everything? Kid, are you going to be my puppet? I don't really care." The ghostly thing laughed strangely again. The two of them chatted for a while, and the entire hall had completely changed. The originally empty stone hall now had many shelves, and there was also a staircase that appeared in the position that Jing Dongjue had said before. It seemed that this guy's information was not completely wrong, but it was too simple, so it didn't matter if it was there or not. In addition to the shelves and stairs, there was a pyramid in the center of the hall that was half the height of a person. There were 5 short knives stuck in it, one of which was broken, and the other 4 were slightly better, but not intact. Including the pyramid, all of them were damaged to a certain extent. That pyramid-shaped thing is the array base of the previous array, and it is also the prop that controls the 5 knives to attack you. It was originally a good thing, but unfortunately, it was completely destroyed by you. It can be directly regarded as a kind of junk. Do you like to pick up junk? The ghostly thing was ridiculing. If he had his help, Lin Yi would definitely be able to obtain this good array prop, but external objects were still external objects. Compared to Lin Yi's growth in this battle, this thing was not worth mentioning. "Heh, I'm a billionaire now, there's no way I'd like to pick up trash." That was what he said, but he really did want to do some research on it. Since the ghostly thing said that it was junk, then there was no need for him to study it. It was better to see if there were other good things. At this time, Jing Dongjue and Jing Tianqing had already started searching for treasures. These 2 fellows hid further than anyone else when there was danger, but when there were benefits, they ran faster than anyone else. Lin Yi was too lazy to care about them. In any case, his divine sense covered the entire hall. Even if they found something good, they would not be able to hide it secretly. "Boss, you're so awesome. Looks like I still have to increase my cultivation. Otherwise, it will be very difficult to catch up to you, boss." Languza waited for Lin Yi to land and immediately greeted him with a smile. This guy had always thought that Lin Yi was number 1 and he was number 2. No matter how powerful someone else was, he would not be convinced. Therefore, these words were indeed sincere and did not contain the slightest bit of flattery. "It's good that you can think that way. Don't just think about eating and fighting all day." Lin Yi teased Languza with a smile, then turned to face Zhao Yi and said, "What do you think? Are you all right?" "I'm fine." Li Zhao Yi was extremely nervous about Lin Yi before, but now she was back to her cold self. After nodding slightly, she pointed to the shelves and said, "These shelves should have stored a lot of items, but now there is not a single one left. If the owner of the ruins did not take them away, then someone has come to the ruins before us. If it's the latter, I'm afraid our harvest this time will not be too big." You're right. After all, this is the ruins of an ancient alchemist. After such a long time, no one knows if someone has been here before. Maybe the array just now was set up by someone later. Lin Yi smiled slightly and did not seem to care too much. He had swept back and forth several times with his divine sense and determined that there was nothing precious in this hall. The most precious thing was probably the pyramid-shaped array base. Unfortunately, it had been judged as trash by the ghost. Lin Yi could only call Li Zhao and Languza over to the steps. As for Zheng Dongjue and Zheng Tianqing, Lin Yi did not bother to care about them. If they wanted to follow, then so be it. If they wanted to continue looking for things here, then so be it. Not killing them was already giving Li Zhao face. It was impossible for him to take the initiative to greet them. Although the two guys had been looking for things, when they saw that Lin Yi and the others were about to leave the stairs, they immediately followed them without saying a word. On one hand, the information in their hands did not say that there were any precious treasures here. On the other hand, they also knew that it was too dangerous to leave Lin Yi and act alone in the ruins. Only by following Lin Yi could they ensure their safety. There seems to be nothing wrong with these steps. I wonder where we will go after going up directly? Do you think it will be Lufeng Forest? Lin Yi studied the steps and turned his head to look at Li Zhao with a smile. This place seems to be a pavilion or something similar to a tower. I don't think it will only have 1 or 2 floors. Maybe we have to go to the last floor to be teleported to Lufeng Forest. Li Zhao pondered for a moment before slowly saying his speculation. That makes sense. Let's go up and have a look first. Lin Yi's divine sense could not penetrate the stairs to see the situation above, so he simply lifted his feet and walked up. As soon as he stood on the first step, Lin Yi was slightly startled. He seemed to feel a repulsive force pushing him away, but this repulsive force was very weak and could be directly ignored if one did not pay attention. Hey, it seems a little strange. Li Zhao stood next to Lin Yi and also noticed the problem. Only Languza did not feel anything. He took 3 steps up and stood on the 3rd step. When he found that neither Lin Yi nor Li Zhao had come up, he turned around and asked in surprise, "Boss, why are you guys not going?" "Languza, don't you find something wrong?" Lin Yi was a little puzzled. Could it be that this repulsive force only targeted human cultivators and Languza was not affected because he was a sea beast? Something's wrong? Something's wrong. Isn't this staircase a little too steep? Why do I feel like I'm going to fall back? Languza thought about it and nodded very seriously. Lin Yi was suddenly speechless. Repulsive force and steepness of the staircase? How could they be the same thing? Was this guy deliberately trying to be funny? Zheng Dongjue and Zheng Tianqing had not yet stepped on the stairs. They did not speak and only paid attention to the way Lin Yi and the others moved. Since it was a little strange, they were not in a hurry to follow. They would wait until the situation was clear. Chapter 6175. Standing on the 2nd step, Lin Yi felt it carefully. The repulsive force was getting more and more obvious. It was about twice as strong as the 1st step. Although it was still very weak, this trend made his expression change slightly. If the repulsive force doubled with every step they ascended, it would be very difficult to complete this flight of stairs. Although Lin Yi could not see the situation above with his divine sense, he could still see the number of steps. There were not many, only 18. But if it was really as he guessed, the repulsive force would be 130,000 times stronger than the 1st step at the last step. The 1st step was indeed weak, but Lin Yi could feel it. It was a force that could not be ignored. How terrifyingly powerful would it be after being strengthened by 130,000 times? Lin Yi knew that it would be difficult for him to resist such a repulsive force. Li Zhao's expression did not look too good. Her thoughts were the same as Lin Yi's. Even Lin Yi could not resist it, let alone her. And the best way to verify the conjecture was to continue forward. The two did not need to speak. They stepped onto the 3rd step almost at the same time. Languza was waiting for them. He was the first to come up, but he did not think about the problem that Lin Yi and Li Zhao had guessed. He looked at the two calmly. As expected. Lin Yi looked at Li Zhao with a serious expression. Li Zhao nodded and looked up at the remaining 15 steps in front of her. She sighed softly and said, Each increase is double the previous step. Based on my current strength, I'm afraid I can only last until level 11 or 12. There's no way I can go any higher. If this is really the calculation, I am afraid I can't pass it. And if I am not wrong, this step can only be walked up. Other methods are useless. Lin Yi smiled faintly. He spread his ghostly speed wings behind him and tried to fly over. Unfortunately, he could not even leave the ground. The ghostly speed wings were ineffective, and so was the lightning escape. It was not that he could not use it at all, but after using it, he could only go up one step at most. He had to stay on that step and withstand the repulsive force before he could continue. After trying, Lin Yi stood on the 5th step and said, "Let's go. We have to try no matter what. The owner of the ruins will not set up meaningless obstacles. The previous 2 were tests, and this one may still be a test. As long as it is a test, there must be a way to pass." Boss is right. Although I do not know what you mean, if there is anything, just let me go in front. Languza laughed out loud and stretched his long legs. He stomped up another 3 levels consecutively. His physical body was extremely tough, and the repulsive force on each step did not affect him at all. Li Xiaoyi smiled faintly and followed. Although the repulsive force was increasing, her posture was still as beautiful as a fairy. Lin Yi looked at her and could not help but admire her in his heart. Zheng Dongjue and Li Xiaoyi saw that there seemed to be no danger, so they followed. The steps in front were nothing, and they were also very relaxed. This path was more terrifying the further one went, and those who could pass 12 or 13 steps were considered very powerful. Lin Yi did not care about the 2 annoying guys behind him and walked side by side with Li Xiaoyi. Soon, they arrived at the 7th step. The law of the increased repulsive force did not change, but he found that there was a faint repulsive force on the spirit. This was a force that directly affected the spirit, and it was completely different from the previous repulsive force. "There's a change." Lin Yi and Li Xiaoyi whispered almost at the same time. The 2 looked at each other and smiled. They were not surprised but happy. If there was no change, they would definitely not be able to resist the increased repulsive force in the end. Now that there was a change, although the situation seemed to be worse, maybe this was where the turning point was? Because of the additional repulsive force on the spirit, Lin Yi and Li Xiaoyi naturally used the power of their divine senses to protect their spirit. In an instant, the force on the spirit almost disappeared, and the original repulsive force on the body was greatly reduced. Their eyes lit up at the same time. Sure enough, the change brought about a turning point. While using their divine senses to resist the repulsive force on the spirit, they could also greatly reduce the repulsive force on the body. The possibility of passing this step was greatly increased. I understand. The most important part of this test is the spirit. As long as the spirit is strong enough, you can pass this step. Lin Yi turned to look at Li Xiaoyi with a faint smile on his face. That's most likely the case, and I'm guessing that this ruin is the inheritance left behind by the ancient elixir refiner. I heard that the ancient elixir refinement had a very high requirement on the strength of the spirit, so it's very normal to have this kind of test. Li Xiaoyi showed a rare smile, agreeing with Lin Yi's idea. Zhang Liju's inheritance of elixir refinement had high requirements for the soul, and Li Xiaoyi's soul strength matched her own strength level. Within Sky-class Island, one's soul could be considered one of the strongest existences, and so it was easy for her to understand what Zhang Liju meant. As for Lin Yi, there was no need to talk about it. He had already seen the other branch of elixir refinement in the ancient Jianghu, and he had the refiner flame of the spirit. Naturally, he understood the strength of the 2 types of elixir refinement merging into one. You're right. Let's continue. Since we understand this, it should be very easy to pass the next test. Lin Yi smiled and continued walking with Li Xiaoyi. With the help of the spirit, the first 16 and 17 steps weren't a problem anymore. The only thing they had to worry about was whether or not they could handle the last step. As for Languza, Lin Yi wasn't worried. This guy wasn't an elixir refiner, but his body was extremely strong. Even Lin Yi couldn't compare to him. In terms of spirit, the sea beast kings of the ancient Jianghu weren't weak either, and Languza was a mutated sea dragon. After this period of growth, his spirit was only slightly weaker than Lin Yi's. Zheng Dongjue and Zheng Tianqing already felt some pressure behind them, especially after they stepped onto the 7th step. The repulsive force against their primordial spirits made it difficult for them to move an inch. The two of them did not have the habit of cultivating their primordial spirits, so it was already very good that they were able to persist and not be pushed off the 7th step, even though the force on this step was actually not that great. Chapter 6176. How are you? There's still the last step. Can you go up? Lin Yi was also under a lot of pressure, but he was much better than Li Zhaoyi. At this time, he was already sure that he could pass the 18th step. The weakened repulsive force could not push Lin Yi off the steps even if it was doubled. If it wasn't for waiting for Li Zhaoyi, he could have already passed the 18th step. I'm persevering. I can do it. Li Zhaoyi's voice trembled slightly, but at this point, she would not give up no matter what. Among the three of them, Languza was the most relaxed. His primordial spirit was not as strong as Lin Yi's, but it was much stronger than Li Zhaoyi's. In terms of physical strength, Lin Yi and Li Zhaoyi combined were not as strong as him. So when he stood on the 17th step, he was even more relaxed than Lin. Boss, do you think that if I block in front, this annoying force will weaken a little? Languza moved sideways, trying to block Lin Yi and Li Zhaoyi behind him. If he succeeded, he could help Li Zhaoyi. Unfortunately, this repulsive force did not come from the front, but directly acted on everyone. There was no way to resist it. It's useless. You go up first. Lin Yi waved his hand and frowned slightly, thinking about what to do to help Li Zhaoyi. If he left her behind, Lin Yi could not do it. Since they came together, of course, they had to explore the ruins together. Either they didn't go or they went together. Languza scratched his head. Since Boss asked him to go up first, he would go up first. He could also see if there was anything strange up there. Okay, Boss, I'll go up first. Maybe there won't be any pressure up there. Languza grinned and stepped on the last step. The formless repulsive force immediately multiplied, and it was in both the primordial spirit and the physical body. On the 17th step, Languza could still deal with it with relative ease, but when he stepped onto the last step, he was almost flipped off. Ah! Languza's muscles bulged and he couldn't help but roar. Veins popped up on his forehead, and it was obvious that he was going all out. To be honest, he really did not expect this kind of pressure. Even though he already knew that the final stage would be twice as strong as before, and he was prepared to endure it, in the end, he still found that he had underestimated the terror of the final stage. Languza's body had already bent down. His legs were in a half squat, and he used all his strength to support himself on the ground. His hands were also on the ground, and his 10 fingers gripped the ground tightly. Although he couldn't destroy the stairs, he could at least provide some support. Lin Yi narrowed his eyes. The strength of the final stage seemed to have exceeded his expectations. Seeing how relaxed Languza was, he thought that the final stage would not have much of an impact on Languza. However, that was clearly not the case. Lin Yi, the stronger one's primordial spirit is, the less pressure one will feel on these stairs. The reason why Languza is suddenly having such a hard time is probably because the repulsive force on the last step has already exceeded the limits of what his primordial spirit can endure. Li Zhaoyi panted a few times, and barely managed to complete this sentence. In fact, this was also her own experience. When she was on the 16th step, Li Zhaoyi was still very relaxed, but after stepping on the 17th step, the limit that her primordial spirit could withstand was immediately broken, so she suddenly felt that it was extremely difficult. More intuitively, Li Zhaoyi thought that the increase in the repulsive force on the 17th step had more than doubled that of the 16th step. Of course, this was just an illusion, because it had exceeded the limit that the primordial spirit could withstand, and the repulsive force weakened by the divine sense was greatly reduced, so it naturally felt that the repulsive force had increased even more. Lin Yi only thought for a moment and understood what Li Zhaoyi meant. For example, if the repulsive force on the 17th step was 2, and Languza's primordial spirit was fine on this step, so he could weaken the repulsive force by 1. 5. However, when he reached the 18th step, the repulsive force became 4, which exceeded the limit that the primordial spirit could withstand, and the weakened repulsive force could only be reduced to 2. 5. Although the repulsive force on the step itself was only doubled from what Languza felt, it was not just a doubling of the repulsive force, but a doubling of the repulsive force. Do you have any ideas that can solve this problem? Lin Yi frowned slightly. He was a little uneasy and could not think of an effective solution for a while, so he could only ask Li Xiaoyi for her opinion. Since this step requires the primordial spirit to use the power of divine sense to weaken the repulsive force, I think some skills related to divine sense may have some effect. You should have some experience in this area, right? You might as well give it a try first. Li Xiaoyi did not hesitate. She vaguely knew that Lin Yi had some powerful skills in terms of divine sense attacks. Now that there was no other way, she could only try it as a last resort and give it a try. That makes sense. Maybe this is really an effective method. Lin Yi's eyes lit up slightly. Because there was not much pressure before, and he could easily stand on the step with ordinary divine sense resistance, he had not used any methods related to divine sense. After being reminded by Li Xiaoyi, Lin Yi suddenly scolded himself in his heart for being so stupid that he could not even think of such a simple thing. When it came to divine sense, Lin Yi's best skill was naturally the soul hook hand, but this trick was not suitable for the current situation. Instead, the divine sense whirlpool might have a miraculous effect. Seeing that Languza was almost unable to hold on the 18th step, Lin Yi quickly released 3 divine sense whirlpools around Languza's body. Languza, who was struggling to hold on, suddenly felt his body loosen up. The enormous repulsive force seemed to have disappeared by more than half. Since he was already resisting with all his might, under the push of the repulsive force, his body instantly shot forward with a whoosh. He was like a sprinter who was preparing for the start and instinctively moved after hearing the starting gun. Under Lin Yi's control, the consciousness whirlpool naturally wouldn't have any negative effects on Languza. On the other hand, this guy hadn't adjusted his posture in time because he'd used too much strength. He tripped on the stairs, rolling and crawling as he went up, but at least he'd made it through the 18 steps of the stairs. It really works. Lin Yi was overjoyed, and a faint smile appeared on his face. Since he could help Languza, he could naturally help Li Xiaoyi. Chapter 6177. Looking at Languza's appearance, Lin Yi's method was obviously able to greatly weaken the repulsive force, so even if her spirit was not as good as Languza's, she did not have to worry about not being able to go up. Little junior sister, get ready, let's go up. Lin Yi reminded, and then released a divine sense whirlpool beside Li Xiaoyi. The repulsive force of the 17th level was not able to completely push Li Xiaoyi away, so Lin Yi only used a divine sense whirlpool. Li Xiaoyi suddenly felt relaxed, and although she was prepared, she still almost rushed forward like Languza. Let's go! Lin Yi very naturally reached out and took Li Xiaoyi's small hand and stepped on the last 18 steps first. The violent repulsive force surged like a tide, but it did not affect him much. 2 divine sense whirlpools were released again, clearing a small area around Lin Yi. Li Xiaoyi, who was pulled by him, took the opportunity to step on the 18th step, and felt that the repulsive force was not as strong as it was at the 17th level. What a powerful divine sense skill! If you want, you can help almost anyone pass through this passage. Li Xiaoyi exclaimed in a low voice. She really admired Lin Yi, and although she had never called Lin Yi senior brother, she had already acknowledged his identity in her heart. Stop sighing, hurry up, I can't use divine sense skills indefinitely. Lin Yi smiled faintly, and casually said a few words, and continued to pull Li Xiaoyi up. The repulsive force of the last step had been felt by the two, so there was no problem leaving here. With Lin Yi's divine sense whirlpool opening the way, they easily walked through the last stone step, and then the scene before them changed. The place that even divine sense could not explore finally revealed itself. Pill furnace? Is it going to test my alchemy ability this time? Li Xiaoyi looked at the exquisite pill furnace in front of her with some surprise, and murmured to herself in a low voice. If that was the case, then it was extremely simple. Wasn't alchemy what she was best at? What's more, apart from her, Lin Yi was also a mystic rank 2nd level alchemist. His strength was even above hers. If she really wanted to test him on alchemy, it would be the easiest one. Boss, there's nothing else here except for the pill furnace. Is it the same as the previous level? Is there something hidden in the dark? Languza had already observed the environment here. To be honest, he was very disappointed. In this broken place, there was nothing delicious to eat and no one to fight with. It was really boring. How good would it be if there was a golden-haired monkey in every place? Wouldn't it be more interesting to have a good fight than this messy test? Lin ignored Languza. He felt that his divine sense seemed to have improved after passing the 18 steps. It became a lot more condensed. It seemed that it was not only a test, but also a kind of training. After carefully exploring with his divine sense, Lin Yi did not find any traces of an array. Of course, with his level of array skills, it was normal that he could not find any traces. He could only see some clues just now because he used a trick to gather 4 blade lights and found the traces of the array from the fluctuations. Let's take a look at the pill furnace first and see if there's any explanation. Lin Yi whispered to Li Zhaoyi, motioning her to stand in place and wait while he carefully approached the pill furnace. Just now, he was sneak attacked by the blade light. In a situation where the ghost did not speak, Lin Yi did not dare to relax his vigilance. Li Zhaoyi nodded and waited obediently in place, but her eyes followed Lin. To be honest, she did not realize that her concern for Lin Yi had completely exceeded her concern for herself. If she was not afraid that following would affect Lin Yi, Li Zhaoyi would have followed him, or even directly replaced Lin Yi and went to check the pill furnace first. Languza blinked and rushed up, blocking in front of Lin. He looked like a loyal protector, which made Lin Yi not know whether to laugh or cry. Languza, why are you blocking me? I can't see the pill furnace. Lin Yi patted Languza's shoulder and pulled him aside. Although divine sense could also observe the pill furnace, Lin Yi still wanted to see the pill furnace with his own eyes, especially the inside of the pill furnace. His divine sense could not penetrate the pill furnace, so there should be something strange inside. Languza nodded and quickly moved away. Lin Yi bent closer to the pill furnace and squinted to observe it carefully. This pill furnace was quite exquisite, but the lines on the surface were extremely simple and mysterious. From a distance, they seemed to be decorative patterns, but at a close distance, they could see clearly that these lines were very old and not simple. After looking at it for a while, Lin Yi reached out to open the lid of the pill furnace. The internal space could not be seen with divine sense, and he did not know what good things existed inside. He hoped it was not something fatal. Languza moved closer to Lin Yi and put on a full defensive posture. If there was any movement, he could immediately protect Lin. Don't be nervous, there is no danger. Lin Yi opened a small gap, and his divine sense entered smoothly. He did not find anything unusual, so he smiled and waved at Languza. Li Zhaoyi, who had been watching Lin Yi, also breathed a sigh of relief and quickly stepped forward to study the pill furnace. As expected of the pill furnace used by the ancient alchemists. The quality is really good, much better than the pill furnace I use. Li Zhaoyi could not help but whisper in admiration. An alchemist obsessed with alchemy seeing a superb pill furnace was similar to a lecherous man seeing a stunning beauty. He would not drool, but he would not be able to move. If you like it, take it. We entered the ruins and at least gained something. Lin Yi smiled slightly. He naturally did not care about the pill furnace. Not to mention that he already had the Shenong cauldron. Even if he did not, he would not fight with Li Zhaoyi for the pill furnace. Moreover, without Han Jingjing's modification, even the best pill furnace in Lin Yi's hands would be a waste of resources. Then I won't stand on ceremony. After this pass, if I can take it away, I will take this pill furnace with me. Li Zhaoyi squinted his eyes and smiled, looking very satisfied. It's best if you don't stand on ceremony. I was afraid that you would be polite to me. Lin Yi smiled and waved his hand, then reached into the pill furnace and took out a sheepskin scroll. Because the pill furnace was very airtight, the sheepskin scroll was very well preserved, and there was almost no damage. Lin Yi slowly unrolled the sheepskin scroll. There were very small handwriting on it, densely written all over the sheepskin scroll. Chapter 6178. Use my cauldron to refine a batch of pills. As long as you meet the requirements, I will let you in. Otherwise, take my cauldron and leave this place. The real ruins will not be discovered by you. Even if you force your way through, you will only see a pile of ruins. The pill formula has been given to you. Before you study it thoroughly, you can stay here temporarily. However, the free time is limited. Don't think about staying here forever. The contents of the sheepskin scroll made Lin Yi speechless. The words left behind by this ancient alchemist were really straightforward. However, because of this, he and Li Zhaoyi had no problem understanding it. Simply put, if you wanted to pass this place, you had to use this pill furnace to refine a batch of pills that he specified. The pill formula had been prepared, but the required spiritual herbs had to be provided by yourself. When the pills were formed, the pill furnace would automatically judge whether they were qualified or not. If they were qualified, the passage to the real ruins would open. If they were not qualified, the pill furnace would be the reward of this expedition. At least they would not have come in vain. From this, it could be seen that the alchemy furnace that Li Zhaoyi had taken a fancy to was probably just a common item for the ancient alchemist to give away casually. When the people left this time, a new alchemy furnace should appear in this place. Even the ghost had to praise the master of the ruins for this method of using arrays. Lin Yi, what do you think of this pill formula? After Li Zhaoyi finished reading the sheepskin scroll, her clean and delicate eyebrows could not help but frown slightly. The master of the ruins had given them 3 days to study the pill formula and also 3 days to refine the pills. In other words, if they could not successfully refine the pills within 6 days, they would be forcibly teleported out. This was the so-called not much free time. In fact, when Lin Yi first saw it, he was wondering if there was any paid time after the free time was used up. Obviously not. I haven't seen this pill formula before. The materials required are not too precious or rare, but the refining difficulty is not low. Perhaps the master of the ruins wanted to prevent the people who participated in the test from missing the opportunity because they did not have enough precious spiritual herbs. Lin Yi sighed softly. If he used his Shinong cauldron and inserted the pill formula, it would be very easy to make the pill. After Han Jingjing's latest upgrade, she might even be able to refine Mystic Level 4 or 5 pills. It was a pity that the guy wanted to use his cauldron, and Lin Yi could only watch from the sidelines. This recipe hasn't been circulated yet. It should be something from ancient times. The difficulty of refining it should be around the 3rd level of the Mystic level, which is beyond my ability. Li Zhaoyi rubbed his forehead, feeling a headache coming on. It was just an entrance test, and they had to refine a Mystic Level 3 pill. Just how powerful were the ancient elixirs? If it was just an ordinary Mystic 3rd level pill, Li Zhaoyi might be able to grit his teeth and try to break through with all his might. Even if there was only a 1 in 10,000 chance, it was better than complete despair. If it was just a normal Mystic Level 3 pill, Li Zhaoyi might be able to clench her teeth and try her best to break through. There was still a chance of success. Even if there was only a 1 in 10,000 chance, it was still better than despair. But this pill formula also involved the use of spiritual sense. Zhang Liju's lineage had placed a lot of importance on spiritual sense, but Li Zhaoyi still didn't know how to do it. I don't have a way to refine the pill in this pill formula. It seems like the two of us will have to work together again. If he were to use that cauldron, he wouldn't even be able to refine a yellow level 3rd level pill, let alone a Mystic Level 3rd level pill. It was better to honestly think of a way to help Li Zhaoyi. As a genius elixir refiner, Li Zhaoyi's skills in elixir refining didn't need to be mentioned. Her techniques were not something a half-baked genius like Lin Yi could compare with. The only thing she lacked was the support of pure qi. But what Lin Yi didn't lack was pure qi. If he used lightning escape continuously, the pure qi in the jade space wouldn't be able to be converted into his own, but using a support skill like Sky Rain didn't have this problem at all. Even if we work together this time, I'm afraid we won't be able to succeed. Look here. Li Zhaoyi extended her slender finger and showed Lin Yi a part of the formula. She then pointed at a few other places. And here. These places don't need the elixir fire of the 5 elements. Even with your help, I won't be able to refine the pill. It really isn't the elixir fire of the 5 elements, but the spirit elixir fire. This pill formula requires the combination of 2 types of elixir fire, but the spirit elixir fire's usage is very shallow. It's not even at the beginner level. The main part is still the elixir fire of the 5 elements. As long as you can condense the spirit elixir fire, with a little help, it won't be a problem. Lin Yi finally understood why the owner of the ruins had arranged this formula. Those who passed the 18th step had a balanced body and soul. Naturally, these types of elixir refiners could use the spirit elixir fire and spirit elixir fire. And in this formula, the spirit elixir fire wasn't even at the beginner level. Evidently, it was just a test to see if the person could really condense the spirit elixir fire. This was the same logic as those with strong qi might not necessarily be able to condense the 5 elements elixir fire. Only those who had mastered the 2 types of elixir fire would have the right to enter the ruins. Spirit elixir fire? Li Xiaoyi's eyes brightened. She had heard about this before, but she didn't have a way to do it. It was just too difficult to understand it by herself. Not to mention Li Xiaoyi, even the pill god Zhang Liju had reached a bottleneck in his research in this area. Hearing Lin Yi mention the spirit elixir fire so casually, Li Xiaoyi was pleasantly surprised. Lin Yi slapped his forehead. He had wanted to tell Li Xiaoyi the method to condense the spirit elixir fire a long time ago, but he hadn't thought of it. With the strength of her soul, controlling the spirit elixir fire was a piece of cake. Look, this is the spirit elixir fire. Lin Yi reached out his palm, and with a thought, a spirit elixir fire appeared in his palm. Li Xiaoyi's eyes reflected the fire, and her whole body became bright. Actually, the spirit elixir fire is very simple. As long as you get the hang of it with a strong enough soul and spirit, you can successfully condense the spirit elixir fire. Come, I'll tell you how to do it. Lin Yi closed his palm and extinguished the spirit elixir fire. He began to explain the method to Li Xiaoyi. Chapter 6179. With Li Xiaoyi's talent, it was not difficult for her to learn the spiritual pill fire. After Lin Yi finished explaining, she just pondered for a while and quickly condensed the spiritual pill fire. Geniuses are geniuses. If they can't figure it out by themselves, they just don't have a direction. With a little guidance, they can be enlightened. Refining this elixir recipe didn't have high requirements for the spirit alchemic fire. Being able to condense it was enough. Li Xiaoyi's confidence increased. With her own ability, she might not be able to refine a mystic 3rd-level elixir, but with Lin Yi's help, the success rate would increase to at least 50%. Once the pill is formed, it will be of great help to Li Xiaoyi in the Tao of alchemy. When her strength increases, it will be easy to refine a profound grade 3 pill by herself. There is still time. I will study the pill recipe and the use of the spiritual pill fire. Li Xiaoyi was very excited. She knew that it was not the right time to start alchemy, so she proposed to study the pill recipe to calm her mood. Lin Yi naturally did not have any problems. He let Li Xiaoyi study it while he and Languza explored around this space. Compared to the previous layer, the space here was much smaller. If the 5 blade lights appeared in this space, Lin Yi's ghost speed wings and lightning escape technique would probably be restricted. The range of movement was too small. On the other side, Zheng Dongjue and Zheng Tianqing had already been pushed down from the steps. They had tried several times, but they couldn't even stand firmly on the 8th step. Looking at the high and mighty 18th step, the 2 of them almost fell into despair. Second Grandpa, are we going back like this? There are treasures in the ruins. Even if we can't get it, we can't let that kid Lin Yi get it. Zheng Tianqing said while gritting his teeth. If it wasn't for his strength, he would have attacked Lin Yi with the blade light. As for whether Lin Yi saved their lives or not, it didn't matter at all. Tianqing, wait, don't worry. Let me think about it. Zheng Dongjue raised his hand and waved it gently, then paced back and forth under the steps with his hands behind his back. After a short while, Zheng Dongjue's eyes lit up as if he had thought of something. He clapped his hands and said, I got it. I didn't understand the meaning of these words before, but maybe they are used in this place. Second Grandpa, what did you think of? Hurry up and tell me. Zheng Tianqing immediately urged impatiently. Lin Yi and the others had gone up for a while. If they didn't catch up now, who knew if they could find them again? Do you remember that there are 18 phrases in the records? Zheng Dongjue smiled proudly. 18 chants, didn't they correspond to 18 steps? Although he had not tried it, he was at least 90% sure that it would not be wrong. 18 incantations? Zheng Tianqing was slightly startled and immediately searched his memory. At their level, their memory ability was extremely strong. Having a photographic memory was only the most basic ability, so he quickly remembered what Zheng Dongjue had said. 1, 3 on the right, 2, 4 on the left, 3 on the left? Yes, that's it. If I'm not wrong, there is a point on these steps where there is no repulsive force at all, and this point is the phrase mentioned in the records. That makes sense. Then how do we determine the position of 3 on the right, 4 on the left, and so on? Zheng Tianqing's eyes were also getting brighter and brighter. He felt that this inference was indeed very likely to be true, so it would be much easier to go up. It doesn't matter, even if we try one by one, we can still find out. Zheng Dongjue laughed and was indescribably high-spirited. However, this kind of stupid method would obviously not satisfy Zheng Tianqing, who was eager to catch up with Lin Yi and the others. Second Grandpa, did you notice? The most mentioned in these phrases is 5 on the left, 5 on the right. In other words, a step is divided into 10 parts, 5 on the left, 5 on the right, 3 on the right is the third part on the right of the first step, and 4 on the left is the fourth part on the left of the second step. Zheng Tianqing pondered for a moment, and a smile appeared on his face. It had to be said that Zheng Tianqing was quite clever, otherwise, he would not have schemed to deal with Lin Yi in the extreme North Island. Compared to Zheng Dongjue's suggestion, his idea was obviously more practical. That makes sense. Tianqing, you are really smart. Let's try it quickly. Zheng Dongjue nodded heavily, looking at Zheng Tianqing with eyes full of admiration. 3 on the right was easy to identify. After the step was divided in the middle, the point on the right was the 3 on the right. Zheng Dongjue stepped on it, and sure enough, there was no repulsive force. It's done. It's really like this. Zheng Dongjue laughed. There was no repulsive force at all. Wouldn't the 18 steps be climbed in the blink of an eye? Thinking of the hardships that Lin Yi and the others went through, he couldn't help but feel proud in his heart. Unfortunately, he didn't know that this step was specially used by the owner of the ruins as a trial. Using this kind of opportunistic method, and relying on their own strength to climb up, would the treatment in the end be exactly the same? Second Grandpa, quickly try the position of the second step. As long as you confirm the second step, the rest will basically not be wrong. Zheng Tianqing didn't follow up, because the step was divided into 10 parts, and each part was just enough for one person to stand on. Any more and he would deviate to the other part. No problem. Zheng Dongjue jumped lightly, and stepped towards the 2 on the left and 4 on the right. However, there was a slight deviation in the air, and he couldn't stand completely in the predetermined position. A repulsive force that was stronger than the original second step appeared out of nowhere. Although it wasn't enough to push Zheng Dongjue away, it still made him a little surprised. It seemed that every step couldn't be wrong, or else the previous immunity would be stacked and explode at the end. The first few steps didn't matter, but if he made this kind of mistake in the last 10 steps, Zheng Dongjue was very doubtful that he would still be alive. After resisting this repulsive force, Zheng Dongjue slowly moved his position, looking for the point where there was no repulsive force. However, no matter how he moved inch by inch, he couldn't find the 2 on the left and 4 on the right. Second Grandpa, I understand. As long as you step wrong for the first time, the safe point will disappear. That's why you can't find the position. Zheng Tianqing saw Zheng Dongjue moving around on the second step, and knew that this attempt had failed. He deliberately took the wrong step on the first step, and then returned to the 3 on the right. He immediately understood what was going on, so he called Zheng Dongjue back. Chapter 6180. Zheng Dongjue listened to his words and came to a sudden realization. He returned to the bottom with a bitter smile and said, I was careless. Let's try again. Second Grandpa, you don't have to worry about it. Being able to find the mistake now is better than being unlucky later on, right? We still have a chance to try again at the front. If we go up the steps, we might not have the chance anymore. Zheng Tianqing showed rare generosity, not only because Zheng Dongjue was his second grandpa, but also for his own life. After the two exchanged their insights, they prepared to start the second attempt. This time, it was Jing Tianqing who carried it out. However, when he stepped on the first right position, his face immediately became ugly. Tianqing, what's wrong? Zheng Dongjue was shocked. Looking at the position where Zheng Tianqing landed, it was exactly the same as where he stood just now. There shouldn't be a problem. Zheng Tianqing shook his head and directly retreated. There is also a repulsive force at this position. Could it be that the mantra can only be used once? After making a mistake, there is no way to use it again? It was not easy to find a way to pass. If there was really only one chance, Zheng Tianqing would hate Zheng Dongjue to death. Just now, he said that he was generous because he could continue to try. More experience and lessons would be exchanged for a safer way to pass. But if there was only one chance, who cared about experience and lessons? Wouldn't it be fine to just go over carefully? How can it be? Let me try. Zheng Dongjue refused to believe it. He stepped on the first right position again. There was indeed a repulsive force, but it was completely different from the first time. Why is it like this? There is no reason. Zheng Dongjue was a little sluggish. He knew that if he took a wrong step, it would be useless to go back. So he could only return to his original position with a dumbfounded look. Maybe there is a time limit? As long as I fail, I have to wait for a period of time to try again? Zheng Tianqing thought for a long time and finally came up with a reason that could comfort himself. Yes. It must be like this. Let's wait and try again. Zheng Dongjue nodded repeatedly. He could only rely on this reason now. So the two of them tried after a short period of time. They did not dare to try the other positions, afraid that if they continued to make mistakes, it would make the time even longer. After more than 2 hours, Zheng Tianqing didn't know how many times he had stood on it before he finally felt the repulsive force disappear completely. At this moment, his eyes were brimming with tears. Although it had only been 2 hours, the torment in his heart felt like it had been decades. Second Grandpa, it's done. Zheng Tianqing didn't dare to move. He just turned his head slightly and gestured to Zheng Dongjue. Zheng Dongjue finally heaved a sigh of relief. He wouldn't be able to forgive himself if this trip to the ruins ended because of him. Fortunately, things weren't too bad. It was only an hour, and they could afford to delay it. Tianqing, be careful. If we make a mistake this time, maybe it will take even longer. We can't gamble. If we let Lin Yi pull too far away, maybe we won't even be able to drink the soup. Zheng Dongjue urged. If there was no time limit, it wouldn't matter if they tried a few more times. But now, they could only pursue success once. I understand. Zheng Tianqing nodded and took a deep breath. Then he stepped on the second step with a dignified expression, second left, fourth left. There were no unexpected deviations this time. Zheng Tianqing stood firmly on the predetermined position. Fortunately, there was no problem with the division of positions. Next, as long as he continued to walk carefully, he would definitely be able to pass the 18 steps. Second Grandpa, you can also come up. Follow my position and don't make the slightest mistake. Zheng Tianqing relaxed a lot and turned around to ask Zheng Dongjue to keep up. Zheng Dongjue nodded solemnly and carefully stood on the first step. Zheng Tianqing then looked at the third step and carefully determined the next step. At this moment, the repulsive force that had disappeared appeared again. Although it didn't push him down the steps, it almost made him go crazy. Because this meant that he had failed again. But I didn't even move, why did I fail? Zheng Tianqing roared unwillingly, but it was useless. A failure was a failure. If he wanted to continue trying, he could only wait for time to pass. And this time, the waiting time was increased again. It was not until 4 hours later that he could try again. After summing up the experience, Zheng Tianqing believed that he couldn't stay too long on the safety point of each step. At most, he had to enter the next step in about a breath's time. Why did I fail again? Zheng Tianqing roared again. It seemed that if the two of them wanted to successfully pass the 18 steps, they still needed to continue to sum up a lot of experience. 3 days passed in a flash, and Li Zhaoyi finally completely understood the pill recipe. In fact, she could have started refining on the first day, but since the owner of the ruins gave her 3 days, there was no need for her to waste it. It turned out that these 3 days were definitely not in vain. Not only did she understand every step in detail of the pill recipe, but her understanding and control of the pill fire had also improved a lot. If it wasn't for the fact that Li Xiaoyi's own strength was not enough to persist in refining a furnace of profound third-grade pills, maybe she could have completed this test without Lin Yi's help. Lin Yi, get ready to start. Li Xiaoyi put all the prepared elixirs next to the pill furnace. After cleaning the pill furnace, she said softly to Lin, "Just thinking of the embarrassing thing that happened when she and Lin Yi cooperated in alchemy last time, Li Xiaoyi always felt a little strange in her heart. This time, there was Languza. If that happened again, what should she do?" Lin Yi coughed dryly. He also thought of that matter. Although he was confident that he could control it well, if there was an accident again, it would be somewhat unreasonable. "Languza, I am working together with Li Xiaoyi to refine pills. We can't be disturbed. You guard us and don't let people disturb us." Lin Yi pretended to order Languza. In fact, apart from the two of them, there was only Languza here. As for the two fools of the Zheng family, they didn't come up for 3 days. It was estimated that they wouldn't be able to come up. Languza blinked his eyes twice. This sounded a little wrong. Did he want me to guard myself and not disturb the boss and the others? Was it so difficult? "Boss, don't worry. I will not let you down. I promise that no one will disturb you and sister-in-law." Languza nodded vigorously and patted his chest seriously. Li Xiaoyi's pretty face blushed slightly. She thought to herself, "We are refining pills, not doing anything else. What does it mean to promise that no one will disturb you and sister-in-law?" Unconsciously, Li Xiaoyi didn't have much rejection for Languza to call her sister-in-law. Instead, she was secretly happy. Chapter 6181. "Well, then I'll leave it to you." Lin Yi grinned. Why was Languza so unreliable? Could he be even more unreliable? After saying that, Lin Yi took out the concealment array plate and activated it to hide him, Li Xiaoyi, and the alchemy furnace. In this way, even if there was an accident, it would not be leaked. Boss is really the boss. He has already prepared the concealment array plate. This kind of good thing is really a necessary tool for home travel. Languza praised. He felt that it was quite right for him to follow his boss. He could learn new things at any time. Speaking of things to learn, Languza felt that it was too boring to stay alone, so he simply used the Wood Forest magic 1,000 changes that he learned from Lin. When he was in the secular world, he was very envious of this move and felt that it was the best choice for fighting. But later, he felt that fighting with doppelgangers was not as fun as fighting on his own, so he did not pay much attention to it. It was not until Lin Yi used it again that Languza suddenly thought that this move was definitely tailor-made for him. So what if there was no opponent? He could find himself as an opponent. After transforming into 10 Languza, this guy grinned foolishly, and the 10 doppelgangers also giggled foolishly. How great! In the future, if he wanted to fight, he could do it anytime and anywhere. "Please enlighten me." Languza coughed once and put on an act of cupping his hands at the 10 doppelgangers. He looked like a master. The 10 doppelgangers also saluted and said in unison, "Please enlighten me." After that, the scene suddenly changed. The 11 Languza each rushed forward with a strange cry. If someone saw the scene just now, they would definitely think that it was a battle of 1 against 10, but it was not. This was a F*King chaotic battle without any rules. A moment ago, it was 2 against 1, and the next second, it was 2 cooperating to tear each other apart. The one who was attacked before turned around and fought with the person on the other side. Only Languza could come up with such a strange battle when he was bored. Fortunately, the concealment array had the ability to block out sounds from the outside world. Otherwise, Lin Yi would definitely run out and slap this fellow to death. What happened to not quarrel and disturb him? Did he really have to demolish the entire place before it was considered a disturbance? Inside the concealment formation, Lin Yi had already begun to use Heavenly Rain to assist Li Xiaoyi. With 3 days to refine pills, theoretically, it didn't matter if the first batch failed, there was still a second chance. However, it was hard to say if Li Xiaoyi could continuously refine a second batch of profound level 3 pills in 3 days. Even with the support of Lin Yi's true qi, The consumption of the mind was not so easy to recover. Moreover, although the spiritual sense pill flame was not the main method, as long as it was used, the consumption of the spiritual sense was unavoidable. The best result, of course, was to succeed in one go, in case of any accidents. Seeing that they were about to enter the real ruins, neither Lin Yi nor Li Xiaoyi wanted to fail at the last moment. Inside, it was quietly refining pills step by step. Outside, Languza was having a great time playing by himself. At this moment, the two unlucky guys, Zheng Dongjue and Zheng Tianqing, finally passed the 18 steps and came to the floor where Lin Yi was. It was just that when they came in, there was a layer of black light flashing on their bodies. Whether it was themselves or Languza, none of them were able to discover the existence of this layer of black light. Yo, you two pieces of trash can actually come up. It really makes me look at you in a different light. Languza's eyes lit up, and he suddenly laughed out loud. Although it was also very interesting for him to fight with his doppelgangers, it was a familiar routine. After playing for a long time, he would also get bored. Suddenly seeing the two people from the Zheng family, didn't it mean that there were new opponents? If it were other mountain opening stage masters, they would not be interested in fighting cultivators who were much weaker than them, but Languza was different. He did not pick his opponents. As long as he could fight, it did not matter whether it was the foundation establishment stage or the sea-splitting stage. When Zheng Dongjue and Zheng Tianqing saw Languza fighting with a bunch of his doppelgangers, they felt inexplicable at first, and then they felt that something was wrong. Lin Yi and Li Xiaoyi were not here. Had they already left? Leaving Languza alone, could it be to deal with the two of them? When Li Xiaoyi was here, Lin Yi might still care about her face, but leaving Languza alone was obviously to harm them. Where is Lin Yi? Zheng Dongjue asked cautiously. In fact, he wanted to ask where Li Xiaoyi was, but because he was too panicked, he directly asked Lin. Zheng Tianqing had already prepared to escape. If he had known that Lin Yi and Li Xiaoyi were not here, and that only Languza, the psychopath, was left, he would not have come up even if he was beaten to death. Looking for my boss? He is not free now. If you want to see my boss, you have to fight with me first. Languza smiled and waved his hand, dissipating the doppelgangers, and then hooked his finger at the two people from the Zheng family. We are not your opponents, we admit defeat. Zheng Dongjue was also a hoodlum. The gap in strength was too big, and directly admitting defeat was not something unacceptable. Why do you admit defeat? Can you have a little backbone? Languza glared at them discontentedly. A fight needed someone to fight. If the opponent did not even have the intention to fight back, it was not a fight, but a punching bag. Zheng Tianqing's heart moved, and he finally understood a little about Languza's character. He immediately sneered and said, "Our strength is not as good as yours. Admitting defeat means we have backbone. If you want to kill us, come and kill us. We will never resist." Only a fool would resist. As long as Languza came, they should run for their lives. How about I suppress my strength to the same level as you? Languza did not give up. Anyway, he had nothing to do. If he could fight, he would beat them up. Come and kill us. We will not fight back even if we are beaten to death. Zheng Tianqing's face was filled with righteous indignation and tragic. In fact, he was sure that Languza would not attack people who did not fight back. Of course, except for Lin Yi's order. This guy was really smart sometimes, but unfortunately he met Lin Yi as if he had met his natural nemesis. Every time, he would not only make a scene but also look very stupid. Boring. The two of you stay there and don't move. If you dare to come over, I won't be courteous. I'll even get off lightly if I kill you right away. Languza glared and threatened. He then turned around and ignored the two of them. Chapter 6182. Zheng Dongjue and Zheng Tianqing looked at each other. For a moment, they didn't know what to do. They didn't dare to go over, and they were unwilling to turn back. They could only wait and see. Another day later, there was a low roar in this layer of space, and a circular light door appeared. Lin Yi put away the concealment formation plate and appeared with Li Xiaoyi. Under the joint efforts of the two, the third-level profound grade Dan was successfully refined. Although the quality was only medium, it was recognized by the Dan furnace as passing the test. However, the Dan furnace that could be taken away after failure disappeared, including the refined third-level profound grade Dan. Perhaps this was the price to pay for passing the test and entering the next place. Lin Yi didn't care, and Li Xiaoyi was only a little regretful. She really liked the Dan furnace, but they hadn't entered the ruins yet. Once they entered, they would definitely find better treasures. "Boss, you and sister-in-law opened the passage." Languza ran over and patted his chest. "Boss, I didn't let anyone disturb you and sister-in-law, did I? Those two guys sneakily wanted to do damage, but I stopped them. I don't like them. Can I go and beat them up?" Zheng Dongjue and Zheng Tianqing couldn't help but roll their eyes. What was this bastard talking about? After the two of them came up, they were restricted to this place and couldn't move. How could they sneakily want to do damage? Lin Yi glanced at the two of them and smiled faintly. "Don't worry about them, we can take care of ourselves." Languza was slightly disappointed. It was right that he didn't fight with people who didn't resist, but if the boss agreed, he could also beat them up. Unfortunately, Lin Yi didn't like Languza to fight casually, so Languza could only obediently restrain himself. There was no other way. This was what they agreed before they came to the Heavenly Island. "Let's go. This light gate should be the passage to the real ruins." Lin Yi and Li Xiaoyi looked at each other and smiled. They walked side by side towards the light gate. After another round of cooperation in alchemy, the relationship between the two of them became more and more intimate. Moreover, this time, the embarrassing incident from last time did not occur. It could be said to be relatively smooth, causing Li Xiaoyi to be in an extremely good mood. After Lin Yi and Zheng Dongjue entered the light door, Languza turned back to glare at Zheng Dongjue and the others before following them through the light door. "Go! Let's follow them." Zheng Tianqing waited for Languza to leave and immediately called Zheng Dongjue over. As long as Li Xiaoyi was there, Lin Yi would not kill them. In this case, of course, he had to follow them. Even if they couldn't eat the meat, they would have to share some of the soup. Or if they made it so that Lin Yi couldn't eat the meat, no one would gain anything. Zheng Dongjue did not talk nonsense and immediately rushed towards the light door with Zheng Tianqing. However, as they approached, a layer of black light appeared on their bodies, and then they were separated from the light door by an invisible force. No matter how hard they tried, they could not get close. What's going on? Why is this happening? Zheng Dongjue was a little dumbfounded. Where did the black light on him and Zheng Tianqing come from? Why didn't this happen to Lin Yi and the others? Servants are not qualified to enter through the main door. If you want to follow your master, enter through the side door. A mechanical voice echoed in this space. It was probably some device left by the owner of the ruins. Zheng Tianqing almost went crazy with anger. "You are the servant. I am a genius of the East Continent. How can I be a servant? And a servant of that bastard Lin Yi? Meet your big head ghost." There was indeed a small rectangular light door beside the light door, but it was only half the height of a person, and the width was only enough for one person to pass through. If one wanted to enter through this door, one had to bend down and maintain a very respectful posture. Only a child could walk through it normally. Seeing this light door, Zheng Tianqing had the urge to vomit blood. On the contrary, Zheng Dongjue was calmer. He pulled Zheng Tianqing's arm and said, "Tianqing, let's go over immediately. Don't worry about those things. We know what is going on. I must kill that bastard Lin Yi." "Definitely." Zheng Tianqing gritted his teeth and swore. He suppressed the shame and anger in his heart and prepared to pass through the small light door. He also understood that this matter must have something to do with passing through the 18th step. Lin Yi and the other two had relied on their own abilities to come up here. Only the two of them had come here by chance. Therefore, the owner of the ruins judged that Lin Yi and the others were qualified to enter the ruins, and Zheng Tianqing and the other two could at most enter as servants or followers of Lin Yi and the others. Needless to say, after entering the ruins, the benefits that could be obtained would be different. The reason that this place was divided into levels was to allow people to be treated differently when entering the ruins. But even so, Zheng Tianqing and Zheng Dongjue could only swallow their anger and go over first. In any case, they could not let Lin Yi be the only one who was proud. After the two of them bent down to pass through the small light door, They found Languza standing in front of the small light door and looking at them with interest. Originally, this guy was curious about the small light door on the side and did not understand what it was used for. He did not expect to see the two people from the Zheng family coming out of it. "Hey, why are you two so obedient? You even know to take the initiative to greet me when you see me. Not bad, not bad. I will give you some benefits later." Languza smiled and pointed at the two people with a teasing tone. The two members of the Zheng family were already so embarrassed that they wanted to die. Their faces turned even redder after hearing Languza's words. However, they were not enough to fight Languza alone, even if they were to fight together. They could only pretend that they did not hear him and turned their heads to look to the side. But on the other side was Li Zhaoyi. She just looked at the two of them with a strange expression and happened to meet their eyes. The two people from the Zheng family were even more ashamed. After this experience, the two of them would definitely become thicker by leaps and bounds. Perhaps they would reach the legendary state of invulnerability. As for now, no one cared about them anyway. Who cared if they were angry or ashamed? After all 5 people came over, the 2 light doors, one big and one small, disappeared. Judging from the environment of towering ancient trees everywhere, it was obvious that they were no longer in the sea mist maze. "Lin, this should be the Lufeng forest of the Zhenduan Sea, right? Are we entering the real ruins now?" Li Zhaoyi was completely unaware that she was becoming more and more dependent on Lin. In the past, she would think about these questions by herself and would never ask them out loud. Now, she was very natural and did not feel strange at all. Chapter 6183. Unexpectedly, these 2 directional jade plates didn't even wait for him to do anything before they moved. As soon as he took them out, they automatically combined into one, turning into a small flying saucer-shaped object. With a whoosh, it flew into the distance. Lin Yi did not stop the jade plate from flying away. Since such a situation occurred, there must be an inherent meaning. The owner of the ruins would not do anything without a purpose, so he just needed to let nature take its course. Between breaths, the forest in the distance lit up with countless green lights. Lin Yi extended his spiritual awareness and could clearly see a palace-like building slowly emerging in the forest. Everything was full of an extremely illusory feeling. The ruins of an alchemist, do you have to make it so gorgeous? Lin Yi muttered with a smile and called Li Zhaoyi and Languza to go over there. The directional jade plate was eventually used as the key to open the real ruins. If they did not come through the light door, Lin Yi estimated that even if he had 2 directional jade plates, he would not be able to open the ruins. On this point, the records found by Zheng Dongjue should not be nonsense. The owner of the ruins' array Dao was quite powerful. In this era, it was difficult to find someone who could crack his array. If he guessed correctly, this forest area was under the cover of the array, so although the movements of the ruins were not small, there would be absolutely no abnormalities outside the array. This ancient alchemist had deliberately planned so many things. I'm afraid that it was not to leave behind a relic for future generations to explore and search for treasures, but to leave behind his inheritance. Otherwise, there was no need to arrange so many things. Li Zhaoyi smiled. He still had a good impression of the ancient alchemist that he had never met. After all, they were kindred spirits. Li Zhaoyi felt that he might also create a place like this in the future and pass down his alchemy skills. As time passed, many things would get better and better, but many things would also gradually be lost. For example, the spiritual awareness alchemy fire had been completely lost on the Heaven Stage Island. However, Li Zhaoyi believed that there must be an inheritance in this aspect in this ruins. After all, in ancient times, everything was very complete. Looking at your admiring look, do you want to be apprenticed to this ancient alchemist? Do you want to seek your master's opinion first? Lin Yi joked with a smile. Since there was an outsider following them, he didn't call Li Zhaoyi his little sister, nor did he call Zhang Liju his master. It doesn't matter if I accept the inheritance. Even if I recognize this new master, with his magnanimity, he won't argue with me. Li Zhaoyi smiled, not taking Lin Yi's words to heart at all. When Zheng Tianqing saw the two of them talking and laughing intimately, he became even more anxious. He could only hope that there were some powerful guards or dangerous traps in the ruins, so that he could kill the bastard Lin. As they spoke, the group had already arrived in front of the palace. Such a building appearing in the middle of the forest should have been very abrupt, but now it seemed very harmonious. The palace door had already opened before Lin Yi and the others arrived, and Lin Yi's divine sense reached in first. Behind the palace door was a square, enough to accommodate thousands of people. Rather than saying that this was an elixir master's ruin, he felt that it was more like an ancient royal residence. It doesn't seem dangerous, but the place is quite big. It's not something that can be explored in a day or two. Lin Yi said casually to Li Zhaoyi. Languza didn't wait for orders and rushed in first to explore. Boss, this square is not bad. It's definitely suitable for fighting. You can use your hands and legs to your fullest, ha! Languza couldn't forget about fighting. He turned around and looked at the two from House Zheng with an unfriendly gaze. Zheng Dongjue and Li Zhaoyi suddenly felt a chill on their backs. They quickly looked elsewhere lest they were dragged into a fight by Languza. In fact, this ancient elixir master didn't set up any dangerous tests from the beginning. Whether it's the golden-haired ape, the 5-blade lights, or the 18 steps, sometimes it looks dangerous on the surface, but in fact, it's very appropriate. So, coming to this place, I don't think anything too dangerous will really happen. Lin Yi smiled slightly. Recalling the experience along the way, he really didn't feel any killing intent from the owner of the ruins. Those tests seemed to be more of a sharpening effect. If there really was killing intent, whether it was the golden-haired ape or the 5-blade lights, if they went all out, Lin Yi didn't think he could escape unscathed. Jing Tianqing, who was behind them, curled his lips in disdain. He thought to himself, there was no danger before? That's because I didn't pay attention to you from the beginning. You haven't even entered the real ruins, and you're already surrounded by danger. Now that you're really entering the ruins, the danger you encounter will definitely increase exponentially. I don't believe that you bastard will be so lucky. But he forgot that if Lin Yi felt a fatal threat, the two weakest guys would be in even more danger. The result of not hoping for a good outcome was that they might die faster. While they were talking, they had already entered the plaza. The palace gate behind them closed on its own, creating a loud bang. The two people from the Zheng clan couldn't help but jump in fright. Right now, they were like birds startled by the mere twang of a bowstring. They were afraid that some danger would appear and directly kill them. The atmosphere seems a little wrong. Lin Yi scratched his forehead. Although his divine sense didn't find anything unusual, he felt a little uncomfortable. This square was empty, without any decorations. It was more accurate to call it a martial arts practice field than a square. It seems that the test is not over yet, Li Zhaoyi said with a smile. She didn't feel nervous at all. With Lin Yi by her side, she was so at ease. And the previous analysis was also very correct. The test set by the owner of the ruins was mostly to sharpen oneself. There was almost no real fatal danger, so there was no need to worry too much if there were any more tests. The sky was covered with dark clouds, and the surroundings slowly became dark. Gusts of chilly wind began to swirl in the square. Lin Yi and the others didn't feel anything, but Jing Tianqing and Jing Dongjue shuddered. Second Grandpa, what's going on? Jing Tianqing whispered and looked up at the sky. Originally, in Lufeng Forest, there were towering trees everywhere, and they shouldn't have been able to see the sky. But when they entered the palace ruins, they found that there were no trees at all, and the sky was endless blue. But in the blink of an eye, everything had changed. Chapter 6184. With their strength, there was a 99% chance that they'd end up as cannon fodder if their targets weren't limited to just the three of them. To be honest, they were starting to regret coming along at this point in time. Of course, this regret was only limited to when there was danger. Usually, they would think about how to snatch benefits from Lin Yi's hands, and if they couldn't snatch benefits, they wouldn't let Lin Yi get them. Lin Yi calmly looked around and didn't take it too seriously. In the case that the space of the jade pendant did not give any warning, even if there was some danger, there was no need to worry, because that level of danger did not matter at all. Let's go, don't worry. Lin Yi didn't put the cold wind in his eyes at all. The strength of his spirit and divine sense were enough to look down on all evil things. In addition, he had alchemy fire, lightning, and so on, so he was full of confidence. What's more, the layout of the ruins' owner had always been decent. Lin Yi believed that the current phenomenon was not what it represented on the surface. Tianqing, let's follow them, we must not be left alone. When Zheng Dongjue saw Lin Yi's group striding forward without any scruples, he hurriedly pulled Zheng Tianqing to catch up. If they were too close, they might be caught in the crossfire, but if they were too far away, wouldn't they die faster if they were targeted alone? Therefore, after weighing the pros and cons, Zheng Dongjue decided to follow Lin Yi closely. Just after taking 2 steps, Zheng Dongjue's eyes suddenly twitched. His peripheral vision swept to the side of the ground, and he saw a translucent swordsman crawling up. His 2 pupils were flashing with green flames, and he quietly pulled out a sword from his waist and slashed at Zheng Dongjue's waist with all his strength. Not good! Zheng Dongjue shouted, and quickly retreated and twisted his waist, dodging the sword by a hair's breadth. Zheng Tianqing was caught off guard, and was also shocked. He quickly put on a defensive posture. Even if he didn't rescue Zheng Dongjue, he had to at least protect his own safety. However, the next moment, Zheng Tianqing almost screamed, because he suddenly found that more than a dozen swordsmen had silently appeared around him. Most of them were carrying swords, and some were holding spears, bows, and other weapons. Second Grandpa, what is this? Zheng Tianqing broke out in a cold sweat. He didn't dare to hesitate. Taking advantage of the fact that the encirclement hadn't formed, he quickly chose a relatively empty spot to break through. Unfortunately, as soon as he moved, more than a dozen warriors suddenly appeared in that relatively empty spot. Not only did they fill the gap, but they also formed a dense formation. It was too difficult to break through. Swords and spears were raised, and arrows were flying everywhere. For a moment, the 2 of them seemed to be in a battlefield, and there was the danger of being dismembered at any time. Left with no choice, Zheng Tianqing could only quickly approach Zheng Dongjue and defend himself with his back-to-back, which could at least reduce the pressure. The only problem was that Zheng Tianqing did not trust Zheng Dongjue. Although Zheng Dongjue was his second grandfather, when they were suddenly attacked, Zheng Dongjue directly let him go. With such a teammate, it would be strange if Zheng Tianqing could rest assured. In fact, Zheng Dongjue thought of Zheng Tianqing the same way. Both of them had their own ulterior motives. Even though they were blood-related, they would definitely choose to protect themselves first if they could not defend themselves. Tianqing, these things don't seem to be real, we can't kill them at all. Zheng Dongjue blocked a sword, and when he took the opportunity to counterattack, he found that the swordsman's body had no resistance and directly passed through. Weapons could block, but the body could not be hurt. These swordsmen were simply immortal. They were absolute weapons of war. If not for the lack of individual strength, Zheng Dongjue would not have been able to hold on for a breath. Second Grandpa, their attacks have spiritual sense damage. They can directly damage my spirit. Zheng Tianqing was careless, and his arm was cut by a sword, and then he screamed. The injury on his arm was negligible, but his spirit suddenly twitched in pain, and Zheng Tianqing almost knelt down. Tianqing, hold on, you can't relax, the 2 of us must not be separated, otherwise we will both die. Zheng Dongjue's heart was cold. The 2 of them could barely block. If they were to face alone, needless to say, they would definitely be finished. Therefore, Zheng Dongjue could only encourage Zheng Tianqing loudly, trying to make him stand together with him. Zheng Tianqing quickly agreed. As for whether he really thought so or not, only God knows. Compared to the 2 Zheng family people, Lin Yi's group of 3 seemed to be much more relaxed. They were also surrounded by a dense number of swordsmen, and 3 layers of swordsmen surrounded them. However, Lin Yi only laid a layer of spiritual sense pill fire around the 3 of them, so that the translucent swordsman did not dare to take half a step forward. The consumption of spiritual sense pill fire on his body was completely negligible, because Lin Yi had used the soul hooking hand to capture many sea beasts and enemies' spirit. Transforming them into spiritual sense pill fire would not be a problem for him to maintain it for a few years. Lin Yi, are these all resentful spirits? To form such a large number of resentful spirits, how many cruel killings would it take? Li Xiaoyi's pretty face was a little pale. She was not afraid, But thinking of this possibility, her mood was extremely low. Originally, she thought that the owner of the ruins was an admirable ancient alchemist, but this method was no different from those evil cultivators. Compared to a powerful alchemy technique, Li Xiaoyi paid more attention to whether the inheritance she obtained was decent or not. You think too much. Although they look like resentful spirits, they are actually just images transformed by an array formation. Although they have some offensive power, it is still the same routine, and the tempering is more than the killing intent. Lin Yi smiled faintly. He had carefully explored it with his spiritual sense. Although he was not completely sure, he could more or less capture the traces of the array formation on this square. Hearing what Lin Yi said, Li Xiaoyi's face suddenly became much better. Since it was an image transformed by an array formation, it naturally could not be a real resentful spirit. As long as the owner of the ruins was not a person who killed innocent people, she could rest assured. Boss, can my attack hurt them? Languza saw such a large number of enemies, and his heart was already itching, and he could not help but ask Lin. If his attack was effective, then he would have a good fight. If Lin Yi said that his attack was ineffective, then he could only give up. Ordinary attacks are probably useless. Your attack must contain the power of pill fire or thunder and lightning. Lin Yi said with a smile. Languza's strength was in the water element, so it would not have much effect on these swordsmen. Chapter 6185. Lin Yi, you said that this is training, but what is it? Li Xiaoyi asked curiously as she looked at the two people from the Zheng family who were shouting not far away. If I'm not wrong, it should be to sharpen my will and make my spirit stronger. As Lin Yi spoke, he put away a trace of the divine sense elixir fire and led a translucent warrior with a sword into the circle, letting him slash at his arm. Sure enough, the physical damage is only about 1/20th of the actual damage. Even if it hits a vital point, it will not cause a fatal injury. However, the accompanying divine sense attack directly affects the spirit. Although it is painful, it has the effect of tempering the spirit. However, if it is used too many times, it will still cause the spirit to collapse, especially for those extremely weak spirit. Lin Yi took the attack head-on without even frowning. He was still able to make an accurate evaluation with a calm expression. The warrior roared and continued to attack Lin Yi with his sword. Although the physical damage was not high, Lin Yi would not really let him slash at his vital point. He moved his body slightly and used his arm to block the attack, continuing to feel the mystery of the opponent's attack. When he was in the small pugilistic world, Lin Yi directly used the divine sense grass root to temper his spirit. That pain was at least tens of times worse than the damage to his spirit now. He could even endure that level of pain, but now the damage was no different from tickling him. If you are not afraid of pain, you can try being slashed a few times. It is still very good for the spirit. Lin Yi turned to look at Li Xiaoyi and made his suggestion with a smile. Anyway, after being slashed, there would only be pain and no scars would be left on the body. There was no problem at all for cultivators to bear some pain in exchange for improving their strength. However, it would be a little strange for him to suggest that a beauty be slashed like this. Fortunately, Li Xiaoyi did not care at all and seriously considered it. Okay, let him come over and I will try. Li Xiaoyi trusted Lin Yi very much, so she did not hesitate for long and immediately nodded in agreement with his suggestion. With a wave of his hand, Lin used the divine sense elixir fire to force the warrior to attack Li Xiaoyi. Li Xiaoyi imitated Lin Yi and used her arm to block 2 slashes. Originally, Lin Yi thought that she would be in great pain. Even if she could bear it, she would at least groan. Unexpectedly, Li Xiaoyi only frowned slightly and immediately relaxed. It is indeed a kind of tempering. It is indeed effective for the spirit. Li Xiaoyi carefully experienced it and immediately smiled. Lin Yi smiled and nodded, letting the warrior continue to attack Li Xiaoyi. Xiaoyi, Li Xiaoyi, Li Xiaoyi, Li Xiaoyi, Li Xiaoyi, Li Xiaoyi, Li Yi that the Li, was it Li Li Tian, was very Li, and Bu was that he. Long, Tun, Li was Li. While Lin Yi was having fun and cultivating with the illusory warrior, the two from the Zheng family were in a miserable state. They couldn't feel any benefits from their Yuan spirits at all. Compared to Lin Yi and the other two, their Yuan spirits were just too weak. Lin Yi and the other two from the Zheng family were just too weak. In addition, the number of hits of the warriors here was more, so there was no tempering but torture. Especially when they came here as servants, the formation gave them less care. If they had not discovered that Lin Yi and the others could use elixir fire to defend themselves perfectly, they might have completely collapsed in such a short time. Second Grandpa, we can't use elixir fire indefinitely. If we use true qi like this, it will soon be exhausted. Why don't we go to Li Zhaoyi for help? Zheng Tianqing felt that he could not hold on any longer. He said that he was going to ask Li Zhaoyi for help, but in fact, he was looking for Lin Yi for protection. However, for the sake of his last bit of face, Zheng Tianqing was stubborn and refused to say it out loud. Zheng Dongjue immediately understood and nodded in agreement. The two took turns to use elixir fire for defense and slowly moved in the direction of Lin Yi. But what made them vomit blood was that Lin Yi, with Li Zhaoyi and Languza, also began to move forward, and his speed was a bit faster than theirs. As a result, the distance between the two sides was not shortened, but was getting farther and farther. Lin Yi, that bastard, did it on purpose. He must have done it on purpose. Zheng Tianqing gritted his teeth and growled. If he could kill Lin Yi, he would do it without hesitation. Boss, those two annoying fellows seem to be trying to catch up to us. Are you going to be unable to hold on for much longer? Languza was having a great time playing with the two armed warriors, but he could still find the time to observe the situation behind him. To be honest, Lin Yi really did not deliberately distance himself from the two people of the Zheng family, because these two people did not exist in his eyes at all. Who had the time to pay special attention to them? He moved with Li Zhaoyi and Languza only because Lin Yi felt that the effect of tempering the spirit here was too poor. It was fine to play casually, but there was no need to waste too much time. If he really wanted to temper the spirit, the effect of a spirit tempering pill would be thousands of times better. Don't worry about them. When we leave this square, the formation will naturally stop, and looking at their appearance, they will not die for a while. Lin Yi curled his lips and continued to walk forward unhurriedly. Li Zhaoyi did not say much. She did not like the two people of the Zheng family. Being able to ask Lin Yi to help them was already the limit. It was impossible to ask Lin Yi to help them again and again. Li Zhaoyi was very clear about how close and distant relatives were. Compared to the two people of the pill hall, her relationship with Lin Yi was closer and closer. Zheng Dongjue watched as Lin Yi and the other two walked further and further away, and the number of translucent warriors surrounding him increased. He felt bitter in his heart, but if Lin Yi did not come to help, what could he say? With their relationship, it was actually a great help that he did not come to help. Those who were colder could just hit him when he was down. If the situation was reversed, Zheng Dongjue was sure that he would definitely come to beat the dog when it was down. Well, the dog was him now, so he could forget about beating the dog. This square was not big, but it was not small either. If one was besieged and unable to move, such as the two people of the Zheng family, it would be an insurmountable moat. But for Lin Yi and the other two, it was just a place to stroll. In less than 7 or 8 minutes, they had already reached the opposite side of the square from the palace gate. Another staircase. Will there be that kind of test this time? It's level 66. With a wave of his hand, Lin Yi's divine sense elixir fire completely annihilated the 3 sword-wielding warriors. After playing with Li Zhaoyi and Languza for so long, their mission had been completed. Chapter 6186. He really didn't understand why the ancient alchemist would make his ruins like this. Even if he was an emperor at the time, there was no need for him to leave a palace behind. Let's go up and see. Lin Yi smiled and waved his hand. Even if it was really the same stairs as last time, he didn't care. With the spiritual vortex, he could reduce the difficulty. The 3 of them stepped on the jade stairs together, and the translucent warriors behind them immediately stopped moving forward. Obviously, the bottom of the stairs was the limit of their movements. Boss, we're up. The array on the square doesn't seem to have stopped. Those 2 annoying guys are going to be unlucky again. Languza looked like he was watching a show. He was happy to see the tragic situation of the 2 Zheng family people. We just passed through and didn't destroy the array, so it's normal that it didn't stop. Their alchemy fire is enough to protect themselves, so it shouldn't be a big problem to come here. Lin Yi didn't look back and continued to walk up. His words were also for Li Xiaoyi to hear, so that she wouldn't lose face and have to go back to save the two Zheng family people. Li Xiaoyi looked indifferent and didn't say anything. She could also see that the lives of the two Zheng family people were not in danger. They looked a little miserable, but this array was mainly for training, so they would get some benefits in the end. She didn't need to worry about them. These stairs are really just ordinary stairs? There's no surprise at all. Boss, is the owner of this ruin going to completely open it to us? Languza walked on the stairs and didn't forget to look around. Along the way, he had fallen in love with the endless tests, so there was no problem with the 66 stairs. Instead, he was very uncomfortable. Don't always want the world to be in chaos. Isn't it good to be able to get the inheritance and treasures in the ruins safely? Lin Yi was amused and stared hard at Languza. Unfortunately, the lethality was too weak for this guy. Hee, boss, I don't think things are that simple. Maybe after we go up the stairs, a large group of monsters or puppets will appear. When that time comes, don't do anything, let me do it. Languza patted his chest and said with hope. Li Xiaoyi couldn't help but snicker on the side. After spending some time with Languza, she basically understood his character, but she still felt that he was extremely funny. Do you want to be a jinx? Wouldn't that be too embarrassing for the Sea Beast Kings? Lin Yi smiled slightly and casually teased Languza. His divine sense could clearly see that there were no abnormalities at the top of the stairs. However, the master of the relics array Dao was too powerful, so there might be other changes. When the 66th step hadn't changed, it was still very fast to climb up. In the time it took to say a few words, the three of them had stepped onto the platform in front of the main hall. Not to mention anything else, just the materials used to build these steps and platforms in front of the palace are worth tens of millions of spirit jades. This ancient alchemist, even if he was not the emperor at that time, was definitely a rich local tyrant. Lin Yi smiled and sighed, but high-level alchemists had never been short of wealth, so there was nothing strange about this. Let's go into the main hall and have a look. Li Xiaoyi was not interested in the value of any building materials. What she wanted most was the inheritance of the ancient alchemist. She didn't get the alchemy furnace just now, so there must be a higher-level alchemy furnace here. A good alchemy furnace would be of great help to the success rate of her alchemy. The scope of this palace is very wide. Let's search slowly, don't worry too much. Lin Yi's divine sense could not completely cover the entire palace, because most of the areas had restrictions that isolated divine sense. If they wanted to find the inheritance of the master of the relic, they could only search slowly and not miss a single place. The three of them entered the main hall together. According to the rules, there should be another test here, but there was none. This time, Lin Yi really wondered if the test was completely over. There would no longer be any hindrance when walking in this palace? If that was the case, it would be safer and more convenient to search for things. As time passed, there would definitely be results. Boss, do you think we should keep an eye on those two annoying guys? They have intelligence. If we don't keep an eye on the two of them, wouldn't we be at a disadvantage if they beat us to it? It was rare for Languza to be so meticulous in his carelessness. The concerns that he raised were indeed real. Zheng Dongjue had information about the relic in hand. Compared to Lin Yi and the others who were searching everywhere in the dark, he had more hope of getting to the main point. If it was an unrelated elder from the Dan Hall, Lin Yi wouldn't care, but he couldn't let the two guys from the Zheng family get away with it. After pondering for a moment, Lin Yi smiled and said, "It's good to keep an eye on them. Maybe it can save us a lot of time. Actually, I estimate that even if they find the most important location of the inheritance, they won't be able to get it. In the end, they will just be leading the way for us." That's right. When they passed through the light door, they could only come out from the small door. In fact, they were already destined to be unable to get the inheritance. It might be because of the 18 steps. I don't know what method they used to come up. Li Xiaoyi nodded and quickly made his own speculation. The test of the 18 steps was actually very terrifying. Even Li Xiaoyi himself almost failed. Only a cultivator like Lin Yi, who had a powerful divine sense attack method, could help others go up. Li Zhaoyi was very clear about the strength of Zheng Dongjue and Zheng Tianqing's primordial spirit. Not to mention that they didn't have a powerful divine sense attack skill like the whirlpool of divine sense. Even if they did, with the strength of their pitiful primordial spirit, it was impossible for them to use it. It will take a while for the two of them to come up. Let's first search the main hall and the side hall, and wait for them to come up. Lin Yi made up his mind and began to search the main hall. His divine sense had already locked on Zheng Tianqing and the others, so he was not worried about losing their traces. For these two guys who had always been against him, there would be no psychological burden to directly rob them, let alone let them lead the way. In the main hall, there were some valuable things, but they had almost nothing to do with alchemy. At most, they could be used to exchange for a lot of spirit jades. For Lin Yi and Li Zhaoyi, spirit jades were the most useless thing. If they needed it, refining a few furnaces of pills would be enough to obtain a lot of spirit jades. There was no need to take the risk here. Chapter 6187. According to the Master of the Ruins, the formation that he had set up in Lufeng Forest should have been impossible to be discovered by others. Even if there were some clues, they could not break the formation and enter by force. Boss, what happened? Languza raised his head from behind a table and asked Lin Yi curiously. Someone broke the formation from the outside and came in. He's here to keep us company. Lin Yi sneered. He had already discovered that the people who broke the formation did not rely on their own ability, but used a one-time item. Sky-splitting passage. If this item was placed in an auction, it could be sold for more than 10 million spirit jades. Its most important function was to break the space and forcibly open a passage for people to pass through. As long as there was no one controlling the formation, even if it was a peak level 9 formation, the sky-splitting passage could forcibly open a passage. However, the premise was that the location needed to be found, because the distance of the sky-splitting passage would not be too long. If the location was not found, it would be a waste to pass through the edge of the formation. Obviously, this time, the location was very precise. The people who used the sky-splitting passage were really willing to use a one-time item worth more than 10 million spirit jades. No one knew where they came from. Languza, you stay here and protect Li Zhao. I will go and have a look first. Lin Yi said casually. Then he unfolded the ghost speed wings on his back. With a gentle flap, he flew out silently. The lightning evasion technique would always produce lightning arcs, so it was not easy to hide one's tracks. However, the ghost speed wings did not have this problem. As long as Lin Yi wanted to, he could completely hide his tracks. In a breath's time, Lin Yi had already appeared in a hidden corner near the sky-splitting passage. He folded the wings and quietly hid. At this time, 7 men and women came out of the passage one after another. Then the entrance of the passage closed and disappeared. Judging from their aura, they were not weak. Standing in the middle was a young man who looked to be in his 20s. He wasn't exactly handsome, but he had an aura to him. His hair was tied into a bun at the back of his head, with 2 strands of hair falling down from his forehead, covering his sharp eyes a little. The corner of his mouth was curled up, carrying a faint evil smile. He wasn't the strongest of the 7, but Lin Yi's instincts told him that he was the leader of the 7. Early mountain opening stage was not too strong, but in the South Continent, it was definitely an overlord. Lin Yi had never heard of him before. Perhaps he was also an expert who came from other places to explore. In addition to this young man, there were 4 men and 2 women. Their ages varied, and their strength was the same. The strongest one was at the peak of the late mountain opening stage, and the weakest one was at the peak of the late profound ascension stage. Among the 7 people, only 3 were at the mountain opening stage, and the remaining 4 were at the profound ascension stage. In terms of strength, they were already considered quite powerful, enough to establish a sect in the southern continent. In terms of strength, it was enough to establish a sect in the South Continent. However, Lin Yi did not care about them. He could basically defeat anyone below the Earth opening stage. Moreover, the number of people did not affect him at all. Boss Ma, you're really amazing. You actually found this ruin. Another early mountain opening stage expert among the 7 laughed and glanced at the palace. He cupped his hands towards the young man in the middle. It's also luck. I don't know what happened here. It actually caused such a huge fluctuation. If not for that, we would not have been able to find the exact location to enter. Boss Ma said modestly. However, his face still showed a little bit of pride. Boss Ma, you're too modest. Only you can sense the fluctuations inside. None of us can sense it. Boss is boss. Without you, it would be useless for us to wander around here for a few years. Another woman smiled and complimented. Being able to enter this ruin clearly showed that everyone could make a lot of money. In a good mood, flattery was also part of the reason. Alright, let's not be polite. Anyway, everyone following me, Ma Weidong, will definitely not lose out. This ancient ruin is very well preserved. Not to mention the hidden treasures inside. Even if we just dismantle this palace and sell it, it will be enough to make a lot of money. Ma Weidong was in a very good mood. He waved his hand and signaled everyone to start searching for treasures with him. Boss Ma is right. Why don't we just start dismantling it? As we dismantle it, we can find the hidden things. Then we can pick out the precious and intact materials and bring them out. Killing two birds with one stone. A man with a scar on his forehead grinned. The 7 of them were originally people who specialized in searching for ruins and treasures. In the secular world, they were tomb robbers. In the world of cultivators, there was no such thing as tomb robbers. They could barely be called explorers. Sweeping away all the valuable things that they saw was their style. Therefore, when the man with the scar said this, the others felt that it was very normal. Ma Weidong smiled evilly and waved his hand. There's no hurry. Let's first look for the most valuable things. How valuable must the treasures of the person who built such a luxurious palace be? The violent fluctuation that we felt earlier might be an unforeseen event. Therefore, we have to sweep away all the good things as soon as possible to avoid trouble. Boss Ma is right. Let's not waste time and move quickly. The man in the early stage of the mountain opening stage said in agreement. Therefore, everyone nodded in agreement. The group of 7 began to quickly rush into the palace. Lin Yi, who was hidden in the dark, rubbed his chin and thought to himself. He did not know if he should get rid of these 7 guys first. They could probably come in because they just happened to feel the fluctuation when the palace appeared. Ordinary people would not be able to feel this fluctuation in the outside world, but Ma Weidong could. If he did not have a rare treasure on him, then he had some special ability. We worked hard to pass many tests to enter this ruin. These guys want to reap without putting in any effort. We definitely can't tolerate this. However, with their help, it should be much faster to collect the things. Why don't we let them help us collect the things first and take them back when we're about to leave? Lin Yi muttered to himself and shook his head. He felt that this was a good idea. If he and Li Zhao searched for Languza by themselves, it would take a lot of time and effort, and they might not be able to find all the good things. However, Ma Weidong's group of 7 were professionals. When they entered the ruin, it was like a swarm of locusts flying over a field of crops. Nothing good could escape their eyes. When they were almost done collecting, Lin Yi would come out to collect them. It would save time and effort. Chapter 6188. Boss, where did those 7 fellows come from? As soon as he returned, Languza had already stepped forward to ask Lin. His divine sense could also detect Ma Weidong and the others. Although everyone's strength was about the same, Languza's spirit was clearly much stronger than the experts of the Heaven Stage Island. Therefore, when he brazenly used his divine sense to observe them, they were unable to detect it. They are doing hard labor for us. They saw that our speed of collecting things was too slow, so they came to help us collect treasures. We can go back and get them. Lin Yi smiled faintly and happily spouted some nonsense. Languza's eyes lit up, and he hurriedly patted his chest and said, Boss, this kind of small matter, just leave it to me. Don't worry, I can definitely take care of it. Since you are so enthusiastic, I will leave it to you. Lin Yi knew that this guy was looking for an opportunity to fight, but it did not matter. The strongest of the 7 people was only at the peak of the late stage of the mountain opening realm. With Languza's strength, it was still very easy to deal with them. Thank you, boss. Languza grinned and began to rub his palms together, wishing that he could immediately deal with those 7 fellows. Ma Weidong, who was leading people to search for treasures at the back of the palace, inexplicably felt a chill on his back, but he could not find the specific reason. He could only mutter to himself and speed up his hands. These fellows were relatively violent when looking for things. Everywhere they passed, the restrictions on divine sense were broken one by one. In this way, Lin Yi's divine sense could also better monitor them. The only strange thing was that the palace did not have any defensive measures at all. Those 7 fellows did not encounter any obstruction at all. This really made Lin Yi somewhat puzzled. Was it really because there were too many tests before that the ruins were the safest? That should not be the case. The owner of the ruins had such powerful formation skills. Wouldn't it be better to casually set up a few formations to defend against such explorers than to have no defenses at all? Even if they did not use formations, leaving a few golden-haired monkeys-level puppets would definitely be more than enough for Ma Weidong and the others to suffer. Lin Yi, you also feel that it is a little strange, right? Perhaps this palace isn't the real ruin? Li Xiaoyi suddenly turned her head and said to Lin Yi, and this deduction also made Lin Yi feel enlightened. That's right. This palace might not be the real ruins, even though there must be a lot of treasures here. Lin Yi's lips curled into a knowing smile. You think so too? Li Xiaoyi had an excited expression on her face. She was very happy to be able to communicate with Lin Yi. The owner of the relic made us think that we were in the real relic, and then only arranged for a training session in the square. The entire palace was left unguarded. What was his goal? It was to make me lower my guard and get lost among the many treasures. It wouldn't matter if I couldn't find the true inheritance in the end. This is a test of our temperament. In fact, the entire palace is a test. Lin Yi couldn't help but exclaim in admiration. This ancient alchemist obviously valued his inheritance very much. Although he left the relic in order to find an inheritor, he had set up ingenious trials for the inheritor's temperament, will, and aptitude. Once any of the trials were not passed, they would miss the real inheritance. He would rather keep his inheritance and continue to sleep than let it be taken away by someone else. Thus, I really admire him more and more. It is our honor to receive such a person's inheritance. Li Xiaoyi was already convinced by the ancient alchemist. He was able to go through a series of trials and make the inheritor feel a sense of admiration for him before accepting the inheritance. This person's means were evident. After a slight pause, Li Xiaoyi continued, Lin Yi, do you think the things that those people took away can be taken away? If it's us, of course, we can take it away, but if it's them, I'm afraid they can't take anything away. Lin Yi chuckled. How could the relic arranged by such a meticulous guy be unprepared? Why must the inheritor come in from the platform on the sea and undergo trials all the way? Perhaps it was for the final formation to confirm their identity. Although the entire palace seemed to have no defense at all now, Lin Yi estimated that when Ma Weidong and the others wanted to leave, the hidden formation would be activated. Unless Lin Yi and the other 2 were recognized as inheritors, everyone else would be included in the attack list. Even if it was the 2 guys from the Zheng family, if they took something that they shouldn't have taken, it would be the same. After all, as servants, it was okay to take some insignificant treasures, but taking something that was beyond their authority would be courting death. I think so too. In that case, we are actually saving them by robbing their things. Li Xiaoyi was not polite. This strange girl liked to rob people, but unfortunately, she had never had a chance and she hid it very well. Now that she finally had an honorable reason, her face was already beginning to glow. Lin Yi was secretly amused. Previously, when Li Xiaoyi wanted to rob Zheng Dongjue and the others, it was still okay. After all, those 2 guys were weak, but Ma Weidong and the others were quite strong. The weakest was at the peak of the late stage of mysterious ascension. It was impossible for Li Xiaoyi to rob them. At most, she could only follow Lin Yi and wave the flag. Do you think that if the things in the palace have been plundered, does it mean that the real inheritance opportunity has completely disappeared? Lin Yi suddenly thought of such a question and hurriedly said it to discuss with Li Xiaoyi. According to previous speculation, the entire palace was a test, so if all the treasures were plundered, it was very likely that the opportunity to completely lose the inheritance opportunity would be completely lost. Based on the nature of the owner of the ruins, he was likely to take the treasures in the palace as compensation for the challengers. After all, it was not easy to come this far. If they could not get the real inheritance, it was only right to take some treasures. Just like the previous alchemy trial, if they did not succeed, the alchemy furnace would be taken away. If they succeeded, the alchemy furnace and elixirs would not be given to them, but only the next trial. It was the same now. The treasures in the palace were the trial. If they failed, the treasures would be taken away as compensation. If they succeeded, all the treasures would be taken back, and what they could get would be the next trial. Li Xiaoyi's thoughts turned and immediately understood what Lin Yi meant. Her pretty face could not help but change slightly. Chapter 6189. Once she knew that she was likely to lose this opportunity, she couldn't bear it anymore. Lin Yi scanned with his divine sense and found that the two guys from the Zheng family still needed some time to pass through the square. There was no need to pay attention to them now, so he nodded and said, "Let's go and stop them immediately and let them put back all the things they have plundered." "Boss, we agreed to leave this matter to me." Languza hurriedly stepped forward to remind Lin. It wasn't easy to get the opportunity to take action, so it couldn't be so easily changed. I know. They're all yours, okay? Lin Yi didn't know whether to laugh or cry. This guy was really naive, and his focus was always on the fight. He and Li Xiaoyi were clearly talking about the important things about the inheritance, okay? What was the point of fighting? After the discussion, the three of them immediately left the hall and flew to the back. The entire palace was huge, and Ma Weidong and the others couldn't search too many places in a short time, so Lin Yi wasn't in a hurry. As he hurried along, he used his divine sense to search for suspicious places. The real inheritance should not be in the palace, but the passage to the real ruins must be in this palace. Lin Yi wanted to search first and try to find the entrance to the passage. Now everything was speculation, and Lin Yi was actually not sure how to pass this test. Supposedly, after passing the test, the passage would automatically open, but if he could find some clues in advance, even if he couldn't pass the test, there was a chance to enter directly, which was much better than being at a loss. Unfortunately, Lin Yi didn't find anything along the way, mainly because there were too many buildings with divine sense prohibitions, and his detection was not complete. He could only send Ma Weidong and the others away and go back to study it. After a while, Lin Yi and the others finally arrived at the place where Ma Weidong and the others were. They stood on the roof of a building and looked down. The 7 of them were originally scattered in different rooms, but after Languza unleashed his power without restraint, the 7 of them immediately dashed out and gathered in one of the courtyards, raising their heads to look at Lin Yi's group. "How dare you? How dare you plunder treasures here? Put everything back immediately, kowtow and admit your mistakes before leaving this place. Otherwise, the 7 of you won't be able to leave." Languza stood on the roof and roared in high spirits. 7. Moreover, they didn't look weak. He could finally fight to his heart's content. "Never, ever, ever admit defeat. If you can bear with my arrogant words and do as I say, then you'll be amazing." Ma Weidong looked at Lin Yi and the other 2 in bewilderment. Clearly, he did not expect to meet other cultivators in the ruins. Could they be the original inhabitants of the ruins? "Who are you people? As far as I know, this ruin was passed down from ancient times. Are the 3 of you also explorers?" Ma Weidong had already regained his composure in an instant, and the corner of his mouth once again revealed a faint evil smile. It was impossible for them to be natives of the ruins. The 3 of them looked extremely young, so they should be from the same profession. After thinking about this, Ma Weidong calmed down and expressed that he didn't care about Languza's arrogant and rude words. The 7 of them were not easily frightened. Languza's threat was simply a joke in Ma Weidong's eyes. In terms of strength, the 3 young guys in front of them were definitely not stronger than them. Although he couldn't be completely sure before fighting, he was very talented in this aspect, and could roughly feel the strength of the 3 people. In addition to the blue-blonde big guy, the other 2 who didn't speak were only at the mysterious ascending stage. Even Languza was only at the early mountain opening stage, so Ma Weidong naturally wouldn't put him in his eyes. Cut the crap, do what I tell you to do, don't change the subject. Languza continued to shout. In fact, this guy was already very happy in his heart. He hoped that the other party wouldn't ignore him. If they really did as he said, this guy would be unhappy. I thought that Ma Weidong, was already very arrogant and overbearing. I didn't expect to meet a bastard like you, who is even more arrogant than me. Very well, since you look so confident, why don't you show us your strength? Ma Weidong waved his right hand, and the strongest of the seven, the peak late mountain opening stage, flashed out and rushed towards Languza. A lion should use its full strength to catch a rabbit. Although Ma Weidong looked down on Languza and Lin Yi, he still sent out the strongest of the seven people. In Ma Weidong's opinion, this situation was basically in the bag, and it was a matter of capturing it with one hand. Therefore, he was ready to call the others to immediately start searching for treasures and not waste time here. However, things didn't develop as he had expected. When Languza saw that the other party took the initiative to attack, and it was the strongest of the seven, he was immediately overjoyed. He laughed loudly and went up to meet it, and he even brought out his strongest strength. The two of them collided forcefully in midair, and each sent out a punch with their full strength. The peak late mountain opening stage expert on Ma Weidong's side originally looked down on Languza, but after feeling the power of Languza's fist, his expression changed instantly. With a loud bang, Languza's figure paused slightly, and he stopped in midair, unable to continue falling. Meanwhile, his opponent was directly sent flying back. Although he didn't suffer any serious injuries, it was clear that Languza had the absolute upper hand in this exchange. Awesome. Again. Languza laughed out loud. His body paused for a moment before he charged forward again. After fighting with his doppelganger for so long, he finally had an opponent that was on par with him. There was no need to mention how pleased he was. What? How could this be? Before Ma Weidong could say to continue searching for treasures, he saw the strongest person in his group being sent flying by Languza's punch. In his shock, his mind was in a mess. Help! The person who was sent flying bent his legs, and two marks that were several meters long were left on the ground. He stabilized himself with great difficulty, and hurriedly called for his companions to help. In the exchange just now, although he looked down on Languza, he didn't have the slightest bit of carelessness when he attacked. In the end, he was still sent flying by his opponent's punch, and the gap between them made him feel a little cold. Get into formation. Ma Weidong didn't hesitate at all, and he gave the order almost at the same time. The aura that Languza showed was at most at the peak early mountain opening stage, but his combat strength was so strong that none of the seven of them could fight him alone. They had to work together to be able to deal with him. Chapter 6190. Interesting. Lin Yi smiled slightly, his fingers scratching his chin thoughtfully. This kind of joint battle formation was a simplified formation, and its power was naturally different. With Lin Yi's current knowledge of formations, when the seven of them joined forces, they could almost exert the power of a level 5 formation. The most important thing was that through this battle formation, the combat power of the seven people was linked together, exerting the effect of 1 + 1 is greater than 2. If Languza did not deal with it well, it would be very troublesome. Haha, good. That's great. When Languza fell into the center of the seven people, he immediately felt as if his body had sunk into a swamp, and his ability to move was greatly reduced. However, this guy was very ambitious. The stronger the opponent, the more excited he was. If it was really an opponent who could not withstand a single blow, although it would be fun to fight, it was still not as fun as letting go of his hands and feet. Kill this person with all your strength. The other two are not a concern. Ma Weidong said coldly, and then commanded the battle formation to start attacking. Circles of water appeared around Languza's body, spinning at an extremely fast speed, forcibly tearing a gap in the battle formation of Ma Weidong and the others, and regaining control of his body. Once the feeling of being in a swamp disappeared, Languza's momentum suddenly increased. With a cross of his palms, the battle formation of Ma Weidong and the others seemed to be engulfed by endless waves. Although it did not disintegrate, its power was much less than before. So powerful! Ma Weidong's expression changed, and he felt that something was wrong, but his hands did not stop. He immediately concentrated the power of the 7 people in one place, and like a sharp arrow piercing through the air, instantly pierced through Languza's attack. In the blink of an eye, both sides had switched between offense and defense a couple of times, and each time it was dangerous, but the breakthroughs were brilliant as well. Even Lin Yi, who was watching from the side, couldn't help but nod. Lin Yi, aren't you going to help? The 7 of them against Languza seems to be beginning to gain the upper hand. Li Zhaoyi turned to ask Lin Yi curiously. She knew that Lin Yi's strength was above Languza's. If the 2 of them worked together, it would be easy for them to deal with the 7-man team. Don't worry, Languza can handle it. He needs this kind of high-intensity battle training to grow quickly. Lin Yi smiled faintly. He knew very well that Languza was having a good time now. If he were to interfere, Languza might not be happy. Moreover, what Lin Yi said was right. What Languza lacked the most right now was this kind of evenly matched combat training. Fighting with the golden-haired ape was meaningless. That would just be asking for abuse. Ma Weidong's 7 was just right. They were slightly stronger than Languza, but they could not completely suppress him. They were the best whetstones. That being said, Lin Yi could not just watch as Languza was suppressed by Ma Weidong's 7 people. Only when both sides maintained a similar state of balance would it be the best training. The 7 of them could exert their strength to suppress Languza completely because of the connection of the battle formation. Therefore, Lin Yi secretly transmitted his voice to Languza so that he could maintain the maximum degree of freedom in the battle formation. At the same time, he could constantly attack the weakness of the battle formation so that both sides could fight more fairly. Languza did not reject this. He also liked to fight to his heart's content. The more restrictions he was under, the more uncomfortable it would be to fight. Having the boss's guidance was the best state. Both sides moved quickly and exchanged more than a dozen blows. The momentum was extremely great. If not for the protection of the formation, it was estimated that the entire Lufeng forest would have been alarmed. Although Languza was at a disadvantage, he would not be in any danger for a while. Therefore, Ma Weidong and the others were a little anxious. This guy is actually so powerful, far exceeding the level of strength that he has shown. Then, are the other 2 the same? If they also have the combat power of the mountain opening stage, we will be in trouble today. Ma Weidong commanded the battle formation to attack Languza while calculating in his heart. He was not the strongest among the 7 people, but he could become the leader of the 7 people. Naturally, he had his own strengths. In a flash, he already had a new speculation. Especially after seeing the calm expressions of Lin Yi and Li Zhaoyi, Ma Weidong became more and more certain of this point. How could a normal profound ascending stage be so relaxed when they saw that their own masters were at a disadvantage? Even if they were not so afraid that they could not control themselves, they should at least be a little nervous, right? We can't delay any longer. Everyone, prepare to use your killing moves. Ma Weidong contacted his companions through the battle formation. He believed that they had to kill Languza in order to make their side invincible. Whether Lin Yi and Li Zhaoyi hid their strength or not, as long as they killed Languza, they would be able to deal with 2 profound ascending stage masters. The other 6 people's eyes changed at the same time. The reason why killing moves could not be used lightly was because the price to pay was extremely high. If they used it casually, they would not be able to bear it. Now that they had the upper hand, was it really necessary to use it? Boss Ma, although this big guy is powerful, we can still kill him if we spend more time. Shouldn't we wait? The others did not raise any objections. Only the peak late mountain opening stage master who attacked first could not help but ask Ma Weidong. We can't wait, we must use it now. Otherwise, we will be in danger. Ma Weidong was very determined. Although through the battle formation, the 7 people could use secret means to communicate with each other and were not afraid of outsiders knowing, he still looked at Lin Yi and Li Zhaoyi with full vigilance. Ma Weidong increasingly felt that the indifferent young man on the roof might be more powerful than this blue-blonde big guy. Hey, that guy called Ma Weidong seems to be very vigilant against me. Lin Yi's mouth curled up, turned his head and whispered to Li Zhaoyi. Then you still have the leisure to talk here. If he is vigilant against you, he will definitely kill Languza, lest he is defeated by you guys. Aren't you going to help Languza? Li Xiaoyi's mind was sharp. With just one look from Ma Weidong, she could almost guess the opponent's possible action. "Don't worry, I can help Languza at any time." Lin Yi smiled slightly. He was not bragging. From where he stood on the roof to where Languza and the others were fighting, it was only a distance of more than 20 meters. Even if he did not use the lightning escape technique and ghost speed wings, Lin Yi could still appear in the middle of the battle in an instant by just relying on the extreme butterfly micro-steps. While they were talking, a blazing ball of fire suddenly appeared above Ma Weidong's 7-people battle formation. It was about 10 meters in diameter, absolutely huge. Chapter 6191. Languza's expression also became dignified. The water around his body was affected by the fireball in the sky. Although it had not disappeared, it was also steaming wildly. As soon as the steam appeared, it was evaporated again by the terrifying heat and completely dissipated. What a powerful flame! Lin Yi couldn't help but exclaim. This kind of temperature had even exceeded the temperature of the strongest pill fire he could produce. Languza was a water-type sea beast, but he seemed rather passive under the flames. This was evident. As for Ma Weidong and the other 6, after condensing this fireball, each of their faces showed a painful expression. Obviously, using this move was still very stressful for the 7 of them. "Go to hell!" Ma Weidong roared and waved both of his hands. The fireball in the air instantly shot out hundreds and thousands of fire arrows. The densely packed flames completely surrounded Languza, and the rolling heat waves had even affected the surrounding buildings. The previous fight did not damage too many buildings due to the protection of the formation, but now the flames directly melted the nearby buildings, and even the formation dissipated. The water around Languza's body suddenly increased, constantly consuming the flame arrows. Unfortunately, the opponent's quantity and quality were far above his. Almost in a breath's time, Languza was beaten to a sorry state. "Little junior sister, you retreat a little. Be careful not to hurt you." Lin Yi knew that he had to make a move, otherwise Languza would not be able to hold on. After warning Li Xiaoyi, he immediately shot a lightning arc directly into the middle of Ma Weidong's group of 7. Spiritual Awareness Vortex. As soon as Lin Yi appeared, he did not directly help Languza resist the flame arrows, nor did he care about the fireball in the air. Instead, he launched the Spiritual Awareness Vortex, enveloping the 7 people at the same time. 3 spiritual awareness vortexes suddenly erupted, tearing the 7 people's primordial spirits back and forth. Ma Weidong was shocked. They had spent all their energy to maintain the fireball in the air, and at the same time, they had to bear great pressure. If there was any mistake, the backlash was likely to kill them. This guy is really more powerful than the blue-blonde big guy. Just the lightning evasion technique from before and the current divine sense attack is not something we can withstand. We must retreat. Ma Weidong, as a veteran explorer, still had some good things on him, so Lin Yi's spiritual consciousness vortex could not affect him in the first place. Unfortunately, not all of his companions had the same spiritual consciousness defense artifacts as him. Although Ma Weidong made a decision in an instant, it was too late to block Lin Yi's attack. Among the 7 people, the 2 Yuan Shen of the profound ascending stage were pulled by the whirlpool of spiritual sense. In a trance, they screamed and collapsed. The flame ball in the air fluctuated, and 2 out-of-control flames fell on them. Before they fell to the ground, they were directly turned into ashes. A battle formation originally needed 7 people to form, and maintaining the fireball in the air couldn't be any less. The 2 mysterious ascending stage cultivators died from the backlash, and the entire battle formation fell apart. "Go! Let's go!" Ma Weidong's face was ferocious, and he roared madly and retreated. At the same time, the fireball in the sky lost control, and flames peeled off from the sphere, falling down rapidly like a meteor shower. In addition to Ma Weidong, the other 4 relied on props to block Lin Yi's spiritual consciousness vortex, but they were a little dazed under the collapse of the battle formation and the backlash of the killing move. Only Ma Weidong, because he was the leader of the battle formation and had the best items, could retreat in the first place. Damn. Ma Weidong almost went crazy. He wanted to save his companions, but the sky was full of flames. He himself was like a clay bodhisattva crossing the river, and he couldn't even protect himself. Lin Yi also didn't expect that his spiritual consciousness vortex would have such an effect. For Ma Weidong's companions, he didn't have the intention to kill them, as long as Lenguza was fine. The range of the falling flames was too wide, and it was about to reach Li Zhaoyi's position, so Lin Yi pulled Lenguza and spread his wings at a ghostly speed, instantly escaping from the densest area of the flames. As for Ma Weidong's 4 companions, they were completely surrounded by the flames that filled the sky. Even the powerful peak late mountain opening experts were unable to block the killing moves they had used themselves. After leaving behind a few miserable cries, they completely disappeared within the flames, just like their previous 2 companions. After bringing Lenguza and Li Zhaoyi out of the range of the flames, Lin Yi looked back and couldn't help but break out in a cold sweat. Fortunately, he had acted early, otherwise, it was hard to say whether Lenguza could have resisted the continuous attack of this fireball. Ma Weidong had also escaped to a safe place. Seeing his companions turn into nothingness in the flames, his face twisted, and he couldn't help but howl to the sky, like a wounded lone wolf. "I don't care who you are. Ma Weidong, swear that I will take revenge in this life. None of you will have an easy time. If I don't torture and kill all of you, I am not human." After Ma Weidong howled, he stared fiercely at Lin, Lenguza, and Li Zhaoyi through the fiery meteor shower, and swore through gritted teeth. Even Lin Yi couldn't help but frown at the murderous intent in his eyes. This guy wasn't a simple person. He had brains and strength. If he really wanted to keep an eye on them, he'd be a disaster sooner or later. Although Ma Weidong's 6 companions were not directly killed by Lin Yi, their deaths were indeed caused by Lin Yi, so there was no problem for this guy to bear a grudge against Lin. "Boss, that brat is crazy. Should we kill him?" Lenguza had narrowly escaped death, and he was also very unhappy. Ma Weidong still dared to speak ruthlessly. As a member of the Sea Beast royal family, the murderous nature in his blood was also stimulated. If Lin Yi was not at the side, he would have rushed over and killed him. Lin Yi's eyes were also cold. He could understand Ma Weidong's feelings, but it did not mean that he could tolerate Ma Weidong's vicious oath. Strictly speaking, those 6 people had died under their own killing moves. If they had not used such a powerful killing move that could easily backfire, how could they have ended up like this? "Since he wants to die, then let's fulfill his wish," Lin Yi said coldly. He flapped his wings at ghostly speed, and his body shot up into the sky with a wisp of afterimage, directly rushing past the fiery ball. Then, with a flash of lightning, he appeared in front of Ma Weidong. Chapter 6192. Teleportation Talisman? Lin Yi hovered in the air and looked at the jade talisman in Ma Weidong's hand coldly. Although it was the first time he saw it, he knew that it was a teleportation talisman that could teleport tens of thousands of miles away. Although it was a one-time use item, it was enough to save a life. Now, when the teleportation talisman was activated, it would produce a space force field that enveloped the user. The circular light film outside of Ma Weidong's body was the space force field of the teleportation talisman. Before the teleportation was completed, the inside and outside of the space force field were 2 different spaces. Therefore, no matter how strong Lin Yi's attack was, it could not break through the space force field. Naturally, it could not hurt Ma Weidong. As for the attack that could ignore the space force field, it was not something that Lin Yi could master at his current stage. "Remember, my name is Ma Weidong. Wait for me to come back and take revenge on you." Ma Weidong stretched out his finger and pointed at Lin. The corner of his mouth curled into an evil and cold smile. Then he disappeared with the space force field. 99% of the power of the formation in the ruins was aimed at the outside world. In addition, Ma Weidong's teleportation talisman was quite advanced. Therefore, he left the ruins without any hindrance. Lin Yi could only coldly watch him disappear. Not being able to make Ma Weidong stay made Lin Yi vigilant. This guy was not an idiot like Kang Ming or Xue Jianfei. It was useless for those 2 guys to increase their strength with the help of the center. Lin Yi did not care about them at all. Therefore he let them go sometimes. Anyway, they could not cause any trouble. However, Ma Weidong was different. He was a genius in cultivation. He was able to reach the mountain opening stage at a young age. Moreover, he had the ability to make cultivators who were stronger than him follow him willingly. His scheming was not weak. Lin Yi always felt that he would bring him a lot of trouble in the future. Boss, that guy is really slippery. He could even escape like this. Languza landed next to Lin Yi and said unwillingly as he looked at the place where Ma Weidong disappeared. The fire area behind had slowly subsided, but all the buildings in the area had disappeared. Not even a trace of wreckage was left. The flames condensed by Ma Weidong and his group were really terrifying. In terms of power, it was probably not much inferior to the super alchemy firebomb. Forget it. If he escaped, then he escaped. Don't give him a chance when we meet again in the future. Lin Yi waved his hand casually. Since he couldn't make Ma Weidong stay, there was no point in worrying now. As long as he was strong enough, Ma Weidong wouldn't be a threat. Lin Yi, the corpses and the things they collected are all turned to ash. Do you think it'll affect our next step? The reason why they came to stop Ma Weidong and the others from continuing to collect was that they were afraid that they would lose the chance to enter the real ruins. Unfortunately, although they stopped them, none of the things they had taken before could be recovered. The reason why they came to stop Ma Weidong and the others from continuing to collect was because they were afraid that they would lose the opportunity to enter the real ruins. Unfortunately, even though they stopped them, none of the things that they had taken earlier could be recovered. It's hard to say. We can only do our best and leave it to fate. In any case, let's look around first. Lin Yi scratched his head and was also a little helpless. Although it was just his and Li Zhaoyi's speculation and not necessarily the truth, he also believed that the possibility of that speculation was at least 80% to 90%. Now that they had lost some of the treasures, there was nothing they could do. At least they did not have any left on them, and they did not know if the destroyed ones would be counted on them. Boss, come and take a look. There's a metal door here. Could there be some sort of mechanism? When Languza saw Li Zhaoyi come over to talk to Lin Yi, he ran to the periphery of the fire. He did not expect to see a pit in the fire at a glance, and there was an iron door with a ring handle under it. Under such a terrifyingly high temperature, all the other building materials were reduced to ashes. Only this iron door was left unscathed, and it looked black and shiny, with a trace of cold light on its surface. There was no need to ask to know that it was not ordinary iron. The most important thing was that when Languza's divine sense swept over, he did not find the existence of this door, but with his eyes, he could clearly see the iron door. Lin Yi did not care at first, but when he heard Languza's shout, he used his divine sense to sweep over and observe. As a result, even his divine sense could not find the iron door. Even a ghost would not believe that there was no problem with it. Languza, you are lucky. You can even see it like this. Lin Yi smiled faintly. Although he was not sure what the iron door was, it was so strange that he knew it was not simple. If it were not for the flames made by Ma Weidong and the others, the iron door hidden underground might not have been found. Li Zhaoyi followed to the side, poked her head out to take a look, and nodded slightly. This iron door is strange. Be careful when you open it. I'll go open it and see. Languza immediately volunteered. He definitely could not let his boss and sister-in-law take risks for such a small matter. Let me go. If there is anything wrong, I can escape faster. Lin Yi waved his hand and refused Languza. He had the thunder escape technique and the ghost speed wings, so his ability to save his life was indeed much stronger. What's more, the owner of the relic had never set up any test to kill. Thinking about it, there might not be any danger this time. Not letting Languza go was just a precaution. Languza still wanted to fight for it, but Lin Yi did not wait for him to speak and directly flew to the bottom of the pit. His palms were covered with genuine qi and he firmly held the black ring on the iron door. Open! Lin Yi sank his qi into his dantian. At the same time, he shouted in a low voice, and his hands lifted up with all his strength. The iron door suddenly made a creaking sound and slowly opened up. The weight of the iron door was somewhat beyond Lin Yi's expectations. He almost burst out with all his strength to barely open the iron door. If it was Languza, it should be easier. This guy's physical strength was much stronger than Lin Yi's. While opening the iron door, Lin Yi was also ready to use the thunder escape technique to escape at any time. If there was any trace of something wrong, he would immediately leave. Fortunately, after the iron door was completely opened, there was no danger. Sure enough, the owner of the relic would not deliberately create some fatal danger to deal with the people he chose. It seems that there is no way to know what is inside if I don't go down. You guys wait outside, I'll go take a look first. Lin Yi saw a dark void behind the iron door. His divine sense and eyes could not see what was inside. He could only look back at Zowie and Languza, shrugging his shoulders and smiling bitterly. Chapter 6193. Boss, you were the first to open the door just now. It should be my turn now, right? Don't fight, I'll go first. Languza waved his hand domineeringly, and without waiting for Lin Yi's consent or objection, he directly stepped down. Lin Yi opened his mouth, but he didn't stop him in the end, allowing Languza to go in. This was because he guessed that the master of the ruins wouldn't leave behind any fatal traps or danger zones, and that Jade Space didn't have any warning of danger. Since that was the case, letting Languza go in wasn't a problem. Lin Yi, we came together, so we should act together. Don't take risks alone in the future. Li Zowie waited for Languza to be completely submerged in the darkness before she solemnly looked at Lin Yi and said. Li Zowie did not have time to stop Lin Yi from opening the door just now. This time, he wanted to go down alone again, which made Li Zowie very unhappy. Okay, I got it, then let's go down together. Lin Yi smiled faintly and did not care too much. He naturally took Li Zowie's slender hand and walked into the dark void behind the iron door. Li Zowie was slightly startled, apparently not expecting Lin Yi to suddenly take her hand. A faint blush appeared on her pretty face, but she did not struggle. She just lowered her head and let Lin Yi pull her into the iron door. In order to prevent accidents, Lin Yi fully spread his ghost speed wings, but he soon found that it was useless, because there was no gravity in this boundless darkness. His body floated in the void, swaying without any foothold. Because there was no gravity, Lin Yi could not tell the specific direction. When he entered the door, he was mentally prepared to fall, but now it was hard to say whether he was still floating down. In addition, what made Lin Yi feel a little panicked was that Li Zowie, who he was holding in his palm, suddenly disappeared, as if her hand had never been held by Lin. Senior Ghost, what's going on? Is it some kind of formation? Lin Yi was very worried about Li Zowie, so he could only ask the ghost for help. Senior Ghost? Senior Ghost? After waiting for a while, Lin Yi tried to contact the ghostly thing again. Unfortunately, there was still no response. He even lost contact with the space in the jade pendant. This had never happened before. No. What was going on? Li Zowie? Languza? Lin Yi shouted loudly, wanting to use this method to contact the two of them. However, no matter how hard he tried, his voice could not come out. The surrounding dark void was still as cold and silent as before. Lin Yi forced himself to calm down. Before entering the iron door, he had many scenarios, such as falling into a bottomless abyss, or being directly transported to a real ruin, or being besieged by countless monsters. However, he really did not expect this situation. Whether his eyes were open or closed, it was the same darkness. Whether his divine sense was restrained or released, there was no difference. Even if Lin Yi shot out lightning arcs, the light could only illuminate the lightning arcs themselves, and had no effect on the surrounding environment. In this case, the ghost speed wings also lost its meaning. No matter which direction he flew, it was exactly the same. Lin Yi could not even judge whether he was flying up or down. The concept of front, back, left, and right was completely subverted. He even wondered if he had entered the endless universe. Because this situation was really exactly the same as the empty universe. Fortunately, Lin Yi could still breathe air, so he was sure that he had not been sent to space. However, this did not help his current situation. How to leave here and find Li Zowie and Languza was the most important thing. Calm down. Calm down. This should also be a formation set up by the owner of the ruin. Li Zowie and Languza may be by my side, but I can't see them. Judging from his previous style, there will not be a purely unsolvable test, so there must be a way to leave here. Lin Yi stopped moving. While thinking quickly in his mind, he completely relaxed his body and let himself drift in the darkness of the void. Since his eyes and divine sense were useless, Lin Yi simply closed his eyes and retracted all of his divine sense into his primordial spirit. He imagined himself as a part of this dark void and slowly integrated into it. After an unknown amount of time, Lin Yi gradually felt that he seemed to be able to see some of the surrounding situation. It was not with his eyes, nor with his divine sense, but purely by feeling. Although there was still endless darkness around him, faintly, Lin Yi seemed to feel that something in a direction was calling him. The call was not strong, but in such an environment, it was still quite clear. Without any deliberate control by Lin Yi, his slowly rolling body had already floated in that direction. If he used the ghost speed wings, he might be able to reach it quickly, but Lin Yi was afraid that if he moved, the mysterious feeling would disappear, so he simply did nothing and let nature take its course. Time seemed to have lost its meaning here. When Lin Yi felt a glimmer of light around him, he opened his eyes again and extended his divine sense. Exit. A circular circle of light, half the height of a person, appeared in the dark void. Lin Yi whispered softly, but his heart was very calm, as if he had already expected such a situation. Floating in front of the circle of light, Lin Yi's face was emotionless and indifferent. After floating in the void, he felt that his state of mind had improved a lot. Perhaps this was the meaning of the owner of the ruins setting up this dark void? After going out, I should be able to see Li Zhaoyi and Lenguza, right? I hope the two of them can go out one step before me. Lin Yi smiled faintly, then his figure moved and flew into the circle of light. The endless strong light dazzled Lin Yi's eyes, and even his divine sense was full of white light. After being used to the darkness, suddenly encountering such strong light, Lin Yi was a little unable to adapt for a while. He even guessed that the owner of the ruins had arranged endless strong light as a test after the endless darkness. This was a little too boring. As he was lost in his thoughts, Lin Yi's body sank. The gravity he hadn't felt for a long time appeared once more, and his feet landed on the ground. He'd been floating in the air for so long, and this feeling of having his feet on solid ground was something he missed a lot. Chapter 6194. Lin Yi smiled slightly and opened his eyes. The feeling of whiteness in his divine sense had completely disappeared, and the surrounding environment was clearly reflected in his sea of consciousness. Lenguza, Li Zhaoyi, are you both okay? Lin Yi looked at the two people beside him and felt very relieved. It seemed that there was nothing wrong with the two of them. We're fine, but you, why are you so slow? We've been waiting for you for a while. Li Zhaoyi smiled and shook her head, with a faint concern in her eyes. Yes, boss, it's just passing through the door. Sister-in-law and I have been waiting for you for a long time. I'm hungry. This roasted meat is good. Boss, do you want some? Sister-in-law said she doesn't like this meat. Lenguza handed a large piece of roasted meat in his hand to Lin. It was unknown which sea beast this piece of meat belonged to, but there was a very strong fluctuation of spiritual chi in it. Eat it yourself, I'm not hungry. Lin Yi waved his hand and turned to look at Li Zhaoyi. Did you pass through the iron gate directly and come here? Did anything happen in between? No, did something happen to you? Li Zhaoyi asked Lin Yi with a slight surprise. It seemed that the dark void before was only targeted at Lin Yi. Oh no, I may have had some hallucinations. Where are we now? Lin Yi casually changed the topic. He felt that he had been floating in the darkness for a long time. He did not know the details, but it seemed that it was just an illusion. How long did it take for Lenguza to eat a large piece of roasted meat? It was estimated that it would only take a minute or two. In addition, he said that he waited for a long time before eating. That so-called long time, with a little water removed, was estimated to be no more than 5 minutes. In other words, what Lin Yi thought of as a few years was actually only 6 or 7 minutes. The means of the owner of this relic was really amazing. Lin Yi sighed in his heart and carefully looked around. Originally, he thought that he would enter an underground building, but what he saw was a beautiful place with beautiful scenery. Looking at the surrounding plants, they shouldn't be in Lufeng Forest. In other words, The three of them had been teleported to another place. They might not even be in the South Continent now. Li Xiaoyi shook his head and pointed in a direction. I don't know where this is. You weren't here before, so the two of us didn't look around. We just searched around with our divine senses. There seems to be a mountain village at the foot of the mountain over there. We can go and ask. Lin Yi's divine sense swept over in the direction that Li Xiaoyi had pointed, and indeed found a mountain village at the foot of the mountain dozens of miles away. There were about 20 families in the village, and the population was less than 100. Judging from their auras, they were all ordinary people, and there were no cultivators. On the Heaven Stage Island, there were ordinary people like this, but they were the lowest class of people. If they went to a bigger town, they would only be slaves. On the contrary, they could live a good life in such a remote place. Let's go and ask for directions. First of all, we have to confirm whether this is still in the South Continent. Lin Yi asked the two of them to set off together. An ordinary village like this could not survive in a chaotic place like the South Continent, so there was a high chance that they had already left the South Continent. He really didn't know what the owner of the relic meant by teleporting them here. The directional jade plate was also used to open the palace. How could they continue to look for the real relic now? The three of them identified the direction and flew quickly. For ordinary people, a distance of dozens of miles might not be covered in a day, but with the speed of Lin Yi and the other two, it only took a few minutes. If they used the ghost speed wings, they could cover the distance in a breath. On the way, Lin Yi tried to contact the ghost again, wanting to ask if it had any opinion on this matter. Unfortunately, there was still no response from the ghost, and the connection with the space of the jade pendant had not been restored. It seemed that the owner of the relic had not stopped suppressing this aspect, so he could only give up for the time being. After a short while, the three of them had arrived outside the mountain village. It was noon, so most of the villagers were preparing for lunch. There was smoke rising from the chimneys of every house, so it was quite easy to find someone to ask for directions. There happened to be an old man sitting in the shade of a tree at the entrance of the village smoking a pipe. Lin Yi went forward and asked politely, "Sir, the three of us are lost around here. May I ask where this place is? Is there a bigger town nearby?" The old man raised his head and looked at Lin Yi and the other two. Seeing that they were all extraordinary, he did not dare to neglect them. He immediately knocked the pipe on the ground, got up, and returned the greeting with a smile. "This is the Medicine King Village, the nearest city to this place. It is 600 miles to the east. If you want to go there, follow this road, but I see that you did not bring any luggage or food, so you can't just walk there." After a slight pause, the old man continued, "If you don't mind, I will ask my wife to prepare some dry food for you to eat on the road. It will not be easy to find something to eat on the road." "Thank you, sir, but there is no need for dry food. We have our own ways to solve the problem of food and clothing." Lin Yi smiled and waved his hand. He had a good impression of this old man. Someone who was willing to lend a helping hand to a stranger couldn't be a bad person. It seemed that this mountain village was a place with simple and honest people. Lin Yi didn't want to disturb their peaceful life, and so he prepared to leave. The distance of 600 miles was not a problem at all for the three of them. If there was anything they needed to know, it would not be too late to ask after they reached the city. "Sir, did you say that this place is called the Medicine King Village?" Li Xiaoyi suddenly pulled on Lin Yi's sleeve and asked the old man with a smile. Lin Yi's heart moved, and he immediately understood what Li Xiaoyi meant. They were here to find the relics of an ancient alchemist. It was not strange at all for a high-level alchemist to be called the Medicine King by ordinary people, so this village was likely to have clues to the relics. "Yes, it is called the Medicine King Village. Do you have any questions?" The old man answered with a smile, and there was a faint look of pride on his face. "I don't know if there is an allusion to this name. I am very interested in this kind of legend. If you have time, why not tell us about it?" Li Xiaoyi smiled very gently. Lin Yi was a little surprised. This strange girl had changed more and more. Her previous cold appearance was almost gone, right? Chapter 6195. This Yaowang village really has an illusion. In the past, this place wasn't called Yaowang village. Legend has it that in the generation of my grandfather's grandfather, there was a serious plague in this village. It could be said that out of 10 houses, 9 were empty, and the few people left were also waiting to die. In the end, God didn't give up on us, and sent a highly skilled godly doctor who easily cured our village of the plague. So from then on, our village was renamed Yawang Village. The old man's face was full of reverence as he reminisced about the past. Even after several generations, he was still very respectful towards the king of medicine. As expected of a benevolent godly doctor, Lin Yi echoed the praise, but in his heart he was wondering if that godly doctor was an ancient alchemist. However, the timing didn't match at all. This old man's grandfather's generation was at most 200 to 300 years ago, and the era of ancient alchemists was calculated in tens of thousands of years, so what was 200 to 300 years? It was just the blink of an eye. If it was said that an ancient alchemist had lived to this era, Lin Yi also didn't believe it. He wasn't an immortal, and it was possible to live for hundreds of years, but it was impossible for him to live for tens of thousands of years. However, the Iron Gate couldn't have sent the three of them here for no reason. Was this Yawang village related to the ruins? While Lin Yi was secretly scratching his head, Li Zhaoyi was still chatting with the old man with a smile. Sir, then didn't you build a temple for the king of medicine? This kind of immortal-like figure should be worshipped properly. That's right. Miss, you're really right. Our village is not the kind of ungrateful people, so we have never stopped worshipping the king of medicine. Do you see that mountain? Originally, there was a small metal temple at the top of the mountain. I don't know what kind of deity it worships, but I heard from the old man that it has been there for tens of thousands of years and has never deteriorated. Normally, there are no incense offerings, so we placed a longevity tablet there for the medicine king. Although we borrowed his place, at least we received incense offerings, so I don't think the deity would take offense. The old man pointed at the mountain peak in the distance for Lin Yi and the others to see. Lin Yi's heart skipped a beat. A metal temple that had existed for tens of thousands of years? It sounded like it was related to the ruins left behind by the ancient alchemists. It seemed like the owner of the relic had sent them here for a reason. The real relic might very well be here. Thinking of this, Lin Yi immediately extended his divine sense and enveloped the entire mountain that the old man had pointed out. However, the metal temple that the old man had mentioned did not appear in his divine sense. There is indeed something strange. That mountain peak should be the place we are looking for. Lin Yi did not find the metal temple, but instead sent a message to Li Zhaoyi with a happy expression. Thinking back to the black iron door that could not be detected by divine sense, the fact that the metal temple that the old man had mentioned could not be found was equivalent to confirming the connection between the two in another way. Li Zhaoyi nodded slightly and chatted with the old man for a while with a smile. Then, she left Medicine King Village with Lin Yi and Languza. Originally, they wanted to go to the nearest city, but now that they had a clue about the relic, it was naturally more important to go there directly to find the relic. The three of them quickly moved in the direction of the mountain peak and soon arrived at the top. Sure enough, they saw the metal temple that the old man had mentioned in a position facing the sun. From the appearance, it was too far-fetched to call it a temple. Lin Yi preferred to call this thing a pyramid, but it was very different from the pyramids in the secular world. First of all, the pyramid here was only more than 6 meters tall, completely incomparable to the pyramids in the secular world. Moreover, the entire body was made of greenish-black metal, looking natural and without the slightest trace of carving. At the bottom of the pyramid, there was a door that was more than 2 meters tall and 1.5 meters wide. Looking from the outside, the interior was not dark at all. On the contrary, it was very bright. One could clearly see a sacrificial altar. On the altar, there was a jade cauldron that was about 2 meters in diameter. Below the cauldron, there was a plaque. It should be the Medicine King longevity plaque that was placed by the Medicine King village later on. The people of Medicine King village might not know what the pill furnace was used for, and they would not think that the pill furnace was the owner of the offerings. Most likely, they would think that it was just an incense burner. But Lin Yi was different. In his heart, he knew that what he was looking for was the ruins of an ancient alchemist. Seeing the pill furnace, he could almost confirm that it was the right target. It should be this place. Let's go in and take a look. The real entrance to the ruins will definitely be inside. Lin Yi turned his head and said to Languza and Li Zhaoyi with a smile, then led the way inside. This time, there was no abnormality or danger. Lin Yi smoothly arrived in front of the altar and carefully observed the pill furnace that was enshrined on the altar. Although this pill furnace was made of jade and should not be used for alchemy, the lines on it were extremely mysterious, no different from a real high-level pill furnace. If this jade pill furnace was just a fake, then the power of the original pill furnace was probably several times stronger. Lin Yi, did you find any traps? This should be the real entrance to the ruins. Li Zhaoyi rarely took the initiative to ask Lin. It seemed that even she was beginning to feel a little anxious before success. Not for the time being. Don't worry. Take your time and you will definitely find some clues. Lin Yi smiled slightly and comforted Li Zhaoyi. Once again, he focused his energy on the jade pill furnace. If there was a trap, Lin Yi felt that it would most likely be on this jade pill furnace. Although the people of Medicine King Village did not care much about what was originally enshrined here, it was after all something that could be placed together with the longevity tablet of the Medicine King. Therefore, the possibility of the jade pill furnace being moved was not high. In addition, there must be some protective measures, so the possibility of them accidentally opening the ruins was close to zero. Before he finished speaking, Lin Yi's expression suddenly changed. He spread his divine sense around, monitoring all the changes within the range. Originally, he did not pay too much attention to the monitoring of Medicine King Village. He did not expect to find that the entire Medicine King Village had been surrounded by a small army. When he left Medicine King Village, Lin Yi had not found any trace of this army. How could an army composed of hundreds of cultivators suddenly appear in such a short time? Moreover, the strength of the soldiers was at least at the Golden Core stage. Any one of them could instantly destroy the entire Medicine King Village. Chapter 6196. Lin Yi was a little stunned. Li Zhaoyi had just asked him if he had found the mechanism, and she had found it herself? Wasn't this too fast? It had been tens of thousands of years, and it was so easy to find the secret door. Had the people of Medicine King Village not discovered it once? Although it was a little unbelievable, Lin Yi had no time to think about this problem now. He found that in the void in the middle of the secret door, a line of handwriting was emerging, roughly saying that the secret door could only be maintained for about 2 minutes, and if one did not enter within the opening time, they could only wait for the next opportunity to open it. As long as the secret door was opened, the next opportunity to open it would have to wait for 100 years. So that's how it is. No wonder the people of Medicine King Village did not find this mechanism. The opening time is short, and the interval is long. Even if it was discovered, there was no time for it to spread. 100 years is too long for ordinary people. Lin Yi sighed in his heart, and then turned his attention to Medicine King Village. The group of cultivator soldiers had driven all the people of Medicine King Village together at this time and began to interrogate something. Listening carefully, it seemed to be about the situation of the pyramid. Lin, let's go in. The real ruins are probably inside. There's not much time. Li Zhaoyi took Lin Yi's hand and gently pulled him towards the secret door. Boss, I'll go in first. You guys can follow behind me. Languza patted his chest and rushed forward, ahead of Lin Yi and Li Zhaoyi. Wait, something happened to Medicine King Village. Lin Yi hurriedly called out to Languza, and at the same time, pulled Li Zhaoyi. This strange girl took the initiative to hold hands, so he should give her some face and follow her in. But what happened in Medicine King Village was right in front of him, and it was difficult for him to completely ignore it. As soon as he finished speaking, a villager of Medicine King Village was burned to death by the cultivator soldiers as a tool to warn others. Lin Yi, what happens in the Medicine King Village is beyond our control. Even if we help the Medicine King Village this time, after we leave, there will be people coming to take revenge on them. In this world, the strong preys on the weak. What is happening in the Medicine King Village right now? There are at least tens of thousands of similar situations happening everywhere at the same time. Can you do anything about it? Now the relic is right in front of us, and the gate will close in just over a minute. If it opens again, it will be 100 years later. Are you really going to give up this opportunity for the sake of Medicine King Village? Li Xiaoyi pulled Lin Yi and quickly expressed her position. During this time, another villager in the Medicine King village had his limbs chopped off by a soldier from the cultivator army and made into a human stick to intimidate the other villagers. Lin Yi's expression was extremely ugly. He also knew that this kind of thing happened everywhere. In the eyes of cultivators, ordinary people were nothing more than ants, and they could kill them as they pleased. It was fine if he didn't see it, but now that he had clearly seen it, he had to pretend that he didn't see it. It was really impossible. Li Xiaoyi. Although the ruins were important, human lives were priceless. If they couldn't enter this time, what was the big deal if they waited for another 100 years? I'm going to take care of Medicine King Village. If you want to go in yourself. Lin Yi coldly shook off Li Xiaoyi's slender hand. What she said just now made him very unhappy. He thought that Li Xiaoyi had inherited Zhang Liju's skills in medicine and elixir, and would be a kind and compassionate healer. He didn't think that she would say something like that. Li Xiaoyi was not like this before. Could it be that the attraction of the ruins was so great that it made her heart cold and hard? Lin Yi, that's not what I meant. Li Xiaoyi paused and quickly tried to explain, but Lin Yi didn't have time to listen to her. Those cultivator soldiers didn't care about the villagers at all, and every second they wasted could mean one more victim. As the lightning flashed, Lin Yi didn't even say goodbye and used his lightning escape to leave the pyramid. When he appeared again, his ghost speed wings took him away as if he had teleported, and then another lightning arc appeared in the distance. With the combination of the two, Lin Yi's speed was raised to the max, and only true teleportation could compare to it. In just a breath's time, Lin Yi had arrived at Medicine King Village from the pyramid. The number of villagers killed had risen to 5, and the culprit didn't seem to be stopping. All of you deserve to die. Lin Yi's body was filled with killing intent. As soon as he arrived at Medicine King Village, his aura exploded to the extreme. Most of these cultivator soldiers were at the Golden Core stage, and there were 7 or 8 of them at the original Soul stage and 1 at the Ascending stage. To Lin Yi, it didn't make much of a difference. They were all trash that he could kill in a second. Mu Lin's 1,000 changes. Hundreds of Lin Yis appeared at the same time, and each of them used techniques like Fire 8 trigram palms and Fire 1,000 kicks. In just a breath's time, more than half of the cultivator soldiers were taken down. Mu Lin's 1,000 changes was not very useful against opponents with similar strength to Lin. After all, the strength of the doppelgangers was too weak, but it was perfect for killing these low-level cultivators. If it weren't for the good defense of these cultivator soldiers' uniform armor, Lin Yi's doppelgangers would be enough to kill them all in one move, including the commander of the early stage soldiers. Stop. Or you. How dare you interfere in the affairs of our 1,000 Illusion City? Don't think that you can mess around just because you are strong. Our 1,000 Illusion City is a big city with a sea-splitting stage cultivator. The commander of the soldiers was shocked. In just a blink of an eye, more than half of his soldiers were lost. Even he felt very pressured. In a panic, he immediately brought up his backer. But Lin Yi didn't care about him at all. All the doppelgangers were still bombarding the remaining cultivator soldiers. Because more than half of them were killed in one move, the victorious doppelgangers had no opponents. They all changed their targets and joined forces with other doppelgangers to besiege the cultivator soldiers. The cultivator soldiers who were barely able to hold on one didn't even have time to cry. They were directly beaten to death by Lin Yi's doppelgangers. In the end, only the commander of the early stage soldiers was still struggling at death's door. 1,000 Illusion City, sea-splitting stage? Is that amazing? Lin Yi waved his hand and cancelled more than 90% of the doppelgangers, leaving only 4 commanders to surround the soldiers. Lin Yi definitely couldn't beat a sea-splitting stage expert, but he was confident that he could escape from a sea-splitting stage expert. With the combination of the lightning escape technique and ghost speed wings, a sea-splitting stage expert who didn't know how to teleport wouldn't be able to catch him. Chapter 6197. What he didn't know was that Lin Yi was also thinking about what kind of place 1,000 Illusion City was. It was definitely not a simple city to have an old monster of the sea-splitting stage in charge. He had never heard of 1,000 Illusion City before. It was definitely not a city in the North Island, nor in the Central Island. Both the South Island and the West Island were the same. Could this be the East Island? What do you want by wantonly slaughtering the villagers of Medicine King Village? Lin Yi asked with a sneer. His main goal now was to figure out the purpose of these guys, lest the Thousand Illusion City sent new soldiers to slaughter Medicine King Village after killing them all. Otherwise, Lin Yi could have killed them and returned to the pyramid. It was not time to enter the secret door yet, so he might be able to make it in time. Don't be complacent. My subordinates and I are just the vanguard. Our main force will be here soon. Don't think that you are very powerful. In the main force, there are many masters of the mountain opening stage. Our general is a master of the earth opening stage. No matter how powerful you are, you can't escape death. The soldier commander seemed to be very confident in the main force. He calmed himself down as he spoke, and his expression became full of arrogance. Lin Yi frowned slightly. There was still a main force behind them? In that case, they couldn't leave to go to the ruins now. Otherwise, Medicine King Village would definitely be slaughtered. If he couldn't change this result, why did he rush over just now? Are you trying to scare me? Where is the main force you mentioned? Lin Yi smiled faintly. He didn't find any cultivator army within the range of his divine sense. Instead, Li Zhaoyi and Languza were rushing over. After all, the two of them didn't leave Lin Yi behind and enter the ruins alone. Languza had always followed Lin Yi's lead and had no interest in the ruins of the ancient alchemist. However, Li Zhaoyi was different. She gave up the ruins, which surprised Lin. The trace of dissatisfaction he had with her just now disappeared. Don't worry, the main force of our Thousand Illusions City will be here soon. When that time comes, it will be too late for you to beg for mercy. The captain smiled proudly. From the looks of it, he didn't seem to be lying. When they first appeared in Medicine King Village, Lin Yi hadn't noticed anything out of the ordinary. Perhaps the movements of Thousand Illusion City's army could hide from Lin Yi's divine sense. If that was the case, then it was very likely that the main force would soon arrive. Boss, why did you abandon me and come back alone? So you came to fight alone. That's too much. Languza saw the corpses of the cultivators and soldiers on the ground and immediately shouted. Li Zhaoyi, on the other hand, maintained a calm expression. She came to Lin Yi and whispered, "Lin Yi, we are just passers-by. There is no need to intervene in this kind of thing. Unless you take everyone in this village and leave Yawang village, and then find a safe place to settle them down. Otherwise, when we leave, it will be their death." Li Zhaoyi, what are you trying to say? You want me to not care about their lives? Lin Yi frowned slightly. He had originally thought that Li Zhaoyi had changed her mind, but who knew that she hadn't changed at all? This weird girl was usually a little weird, but why was she a little muddle-headed on this kind of issue now? If Li Zhaoyi continued to say such things, Lin Yi would definitely choose to distance himself from her and keep a certain distance. Forget it, I won't try to persuade you. Anyway, the secret door has been closed. This time, we are destined to return empty-handed. Since you don't like the strong bullying the weak, let that guy go. Li Zhaoyi pointed to the captain and added, we still don't know where we are. If we offend the local forces too much, it won't do us any good. We've already killed so many people, one more doesn't make a difference. Lin Yi felt a little uncomfortable, and the way he looked at Li Zhaoyi became a little strange. With a sea-splitting stage-old monster in charge of Thousand Illusion City, it was easy to imagine how strong they would be. Even if they only killed a Golden Core stage soldier, the other side would never let it go. Not to mention that Lin Yi had killed more than 100 cultivator soldiers. Letting go of the only profound ascending stage commander would not lessen the hatred between them. I said let him go. Do you want to kill us all? Li Zhaoyi suddenly became angry, and her pretty face became a little twisted. Lin Yi narrowed his eyes and fixed his gaze on Li Zhaoyi. At the same time, with a thought, for doppelgangers instantly attacked and killed the remaining soldier commander. You might as well just kill me. Li Zhaoyi was furious. She took out a dagger and pointed it at her white throat. She pulled Lin Yi's hand and held the dagger, then raised her head to look at Lin. Lin Yi let her do what she wanted and held the dagger very simply. However, he did not really stab it into Li Xiaoyi's throat, nor did he move the dagger away. "Boss, what's going on with you guys? Can't we talk things out?" Languza quickly persuaded Lin Yi, but his expression did not look too anxious. At this time, a cultivator army really appeared out of thin air outside Medicine King Village. This time, it was not 100-people vanguard, but more than 3,000 people, enough to be called an army. All the cultivator soldiers were still not lower than the Golden Core stage, and there were a few small square formations made up entirely of nascent Soul Stage cultivator soldiers, which could be considered elite teams. As for the Profound Ascension stage, there were at least 30 of them. It was estimated that each of them could lead a team of 100 people, just like the previous soldier commanders. There was only one Earth opening stage, which should be the general that the guy mentioned just now. Linny did not care too much about it. After experiencing the battle with the golden-haired ape, he no longer had any fear for the early stage Earth opening stage experts. "You're still not doing anything? Do you want to wait for them to kill me?" Li Xiaoyi looked at Lin Yi coldly, her neck slightly tilted forward, the dagger piercing a trace of white tender skin. A drop of dark red blood flowed out. The contrast was very obvious. "Illusion. So all of this is an illusion." Lin Yi sighed softly. He had long felt that something was wrong, but he could not tell what it was. It was not until Li Xiaoyi forced him so abnormally that he finally understood. Perhaps from the beginning of the Dark Void, he had already fallen into the illusion. After leaving the Dark Void, he thought that he had met up with Li Xiaoyi and Languza, but in fact, he was still unable to extricate himself from the illusion. Chapter 6198. For example, the ghost could not be contacted, and the jade space could not be sensed. Li Xiaoyi also behaved abnormally, taking the initiative to hold Lin Yi's hand, talking a lot, changing his personality too much, and so on. On the contrary, Languza behaved more normally. It was probably because he had been with Lin Yi for a long time, so the formation of the illusion was relatively complete. "You said that I am a phantom in the illusion? Then kill me. If you kill me, you can wake up from the illusion." Li Xiaoyi sneered and moved forward a little, but this time Lin Yi withdrew his hand at the same time, leaving the tip of the dagger and Li Xiaoyi's neck in the original state. "Kill everyone here. Leave no one alive. Those who dare to attack the soldiers of our 1,000 Illusion City don't even think about living." In the army outside the village, the general of the Earth opening stage gave a loud order, spreading his voice through the whole army with vital chi, and also into the ears of everyone in the Medicine King village. 3,000 cultivator soldiers responded loudly. They formed into a battle formation specially used by the army and charged towards the village. If there was no Lin Yi, any one of their soldiers was enough to sweep the entire mountain village and wipe out the Medicine King village with a flick of a finger. But with Lin Yi, they directly drove 3,000 troops over, using an upright military force to oppress the village head-on. A small mountain village mobilized an army of more than 3,000 cultivators. This kind of thing was actually extremely absurd, so Lin Yi became more and more sure that he was in an illusion, but even if he knew it was an illusion, he was not willing to let the villagers of the Medicine King village be killed. "I won't kill you. We'll talk about this after I solve the trouble outside," Lin Yi said coldly, throwing the dagger to the ground. His figure flashed, and his ghost wings took him in the air outside the village in an instant. In the palms of his hands, 2 groups of Super Dan firebombs had formed, and as long as they were combined together, he could throw them out to attack the army. Although there were more than 3,000 opponents, Lin Yi had never been afraid of group attacks. Back when he faced the Sea Beast Tide on the far north island, the number and quality of the Sea Beast Tide were many times stronger than this one. Even so, he was not worried. Moreover, now that he knew that 99% of everything was just an illusion, there was even less of a burden. Whether you are real or not, go to hell. Lin Yi clasped his hands together and threw the super alchemy firebomb. There wasn't much time to condense, so the power of this super alchemic firebomb wouldn't be too strong. Lin Yi also didn't expect to get rid of all the cultivator soldiers in one go. Before the aftermath of the directional explosion dissipated, Lin Yi appeared in the center of the entire army. Dark clouds rolled in the sky, and lightning flashed faintly in the clouds. 1,000 thunderbolt explosions. Countless lightning bolts descended from the sky, and at this moment, heaven and earth seemed to be connected together. This was Lin Yi's strongest group attack, and it covered the entire army of 3,000 people. It could be said that not a single one of them was left behind. Under the power of the 1,000 thunderbolt explosions, a single soldier would be turned into ashes if they were touched by it. However, with the help of the army's defense, 70% to 80% of the soldiers were able to withstand this attack. Unfortunately, Lin Yi's 1,000 thunderbolt explosions wasn't a one-time explosive martial skill. It had a certain continuous attack ability. The soldiers who had withstood the first wave of lightning bolts didn't even have time to breathe before the second and third wave of lightning bolts came. This time, the defense of the army could no longer protect them. When the army was torn apart, their bodies were also torn into pieces. Illusion, everything is an illusion. Lin Yi whispered. He wasn't a person who liked to kill, otherwise he wouldn't have let go of Kong Ming and Xue Jianfeng time and time again. Although there were many reasons for this, if he really wanted to kill those enemies, they would have died many times already. This time, Lin Yi took the initiative to kill 2,000 to 3,000 cultivators. Even if he knew it was an illusion, he still felt very uncomfortable. Under the 1,000 thunderbolt explosions, only the general and a dozen profound ascending stage commanders could still resist. They formed a small battle formation and began to counterattack against Lin. After losing the space of the Jade Pendant, Lin Yi's true qi couldn't be replenished, so he didn't dare to be too bold and use powerful martial skills. Before, he couldn't use them continuously because the speed of the Jade Pendant's replenishment could not keep up with the consumption, and his physical strength was not enough to support it. Now, he simply didn't have any replenishment at all. After the Super Dan firebomb and the 1,000 thunderbolt explosions, Lin Yi knew that he couldn't use his previous fighting style anymore. With a light flap of his wings, Lin Yi's figure in the air was no different from lightning, hovering above their heads with countless afterimages. When he found an opportunity, he immediately launched a soul-reaping hand. If he could successfully reap the soul of the general of the 1,000 Illusion City army, the rest of the profound ascending stage cultivators wouldn't have to worry about them. Unfortunately, the soul-reaping hand didn't succeed. The general and the commanders who formed the army formation all had a defensive bonus brought by the formation. This kind of defense was not only against physical attacks, but also against soul attacks. Lin Yi sighed and could only give up his spiritual sense attack. If he couldn't break the enemy's formation, there was basically no hope of killing them. This illusion was really quite troublesome. How could he wake up from the illusion? If he destroyed the entire army of the 1,000 Illusion City, would he get any clues? Lin Yi was distracted thinking while quickly appearing in various positions around them. In order to save true qi, he didn't act rashly. Finally, he found a flaw in the opponent. Lin Yi immediately erupted and directly used the finishing move that he hadn't used for a long time. 5 elements 8 trigrams killing qi. In terms of pure power, the 5 elements 8 trigrams killing qi was stronger than the ordinary 5 elements killing qi, but Lin Yi hadn't used this move much, because the increase in power was not enough to cause a qualitative change. However, in the current situation, the 5 elements 8 trigrams killing qi was able to display an extremely powerful effect. The 1,000 thunderbolts explosion was unable to break through the military formation. When it encountered the 5 elements 8 trigrams killing qi, it was like ice and snow meeting boiling water, easily melting most of it. All the formations, no matter how mysterious and profound, the most basic composition was nothing more than the 5 elements 8 trigrams killing qi. Lin Yi's 5 elements 8 trigrams killing qi just happened to be able to restrain the defense of all kinds of formations. Of course, this was only the battle formation composed of living beings. Those with fixed formation bases or formation flags were not included. The generals and commanders of the cultivator army were shocked. They didn't expect that the impregnable defense of the army formation would be easily broken by Lin Yi. Before they could react, Lin Yi had already thrown a few spiritual sense pill fire vortexes into the gap and crazily raged on everyone.